What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5CD11 You said you want my daughter to be a slave? Please subscribe. Advertisement, hey. Stop it, you will be tortured until death is worse than death. Seeing Charos' condition, the people around him couldn't help but be dumbfounded again. But these guards didn't dare to be dumbfounded. Isn't it because I finally became a loser because I thought I could get along with a rich man and enjoy myself? But what is the result now? Before he could assert his authority for a long time, the master had his hand broken by this woman. In that case, what's the use of these bodyguards? It is very likely that we will suffer disaster later. A bunch of scumbags who are begging for food for their master are so noisy that they have forgotten what the Heavenly Dragon King said. If they dare to deliberately kill civilians and contract workers, even the celestial dragons are no exception. They will be treated equally. I didn't kill him directly, so it's considered a crime. Be merciful. U1XN Hearing what Hancock said, the bodyguards couldn't help but grit their teeth. But for a moment, I didn't know how to refute. After all, now in public, you can't directly refute her and say, the Heavenly Dragon King is not here, so words don't count, right? That way, you are really seeking death. Surround her. Kill her at all costs. But at this time, Charos actually didn't faint yet, but shouted loudly and angrily. Although the fat on his face has been twisted into a ball and he can't even see clearly what he looked like before, he is still extremely angry now. Ever since he was little, no one has ever dared to hit him. Even his father is no exception, although his father's legs were chopped off by the stingy Dragon King and that damn woman because of a little mistake. The impact was actually minor because of his prosthetic limbs. But he told him that as long as he didn't offend the Heavenly Dragon King, he would still be able to be unscrupulous in the future. Anyway, that Heavenly Dragon King doesn't come out every day. As long as I heard that he is still in Marijoy, wouldn't it be quite comfortable to go out and stroll by yourself? It's just that even though other celestial dragons are more or less restrained now, his family is the only one who is not. On the contrary, workers are even more oppressed. It can simply be said to be miserable, but many of them were actually bought privately, so even if they are registered, no one knows. So within their family, there were actually many slaves who were directly tortured to death. However, because this line seemed to have been discovered some time ago, this kind of goods is becoming less and less available, and it can only be obtained through formal channels. But this kind of abuse cannot be true. After the abuse, a complaint was filed, and then the other party was immediately freed, and he was scolded by his father. So now that I have finally encountered this kind of slave, who doesn't fight back or scolds me, of course I have to buy it back and play with it. But who would have thought that we would encounter such bad luck? Originally, if I went sailing far away, I would take someone from the CP agency with me. The dog legs were also furious at this time, but because Charos was kicked away, there was finally no hostage around her, so the dog legs could finally give it a try. Advertisement. Who dares to talk like that? Do you want to die together, but you still take your daughter with you? Make your daughter a slave. I will send you. Wait. Could it be that this woman is? Please give me flowers. 011205524 Filu 101,351,431. After hearing this, Hancock became even more angry. Even if she covered her eyes with sunglasses, she could still see her extreme anger. Isn't this the Queen of the Daughter's Kingdom, Boa Hancock? Even if some people have never seen it with their own eyes, there are pictures of the Dragon King everywhere. It's so noisy, stupid pig, just hearing your voice makes me sick. Okay, Tien Lien, it's okay. Originally, I wanted you to teach this loser a lesson. You said you want my daughter to be a slave? Dragon King, Lord Ivanlos? Facing the other party's questioning, the man's expression began to become uglier than crying, and he wanted to refute. No, But before he could speak the next words, a muffled thunder hit his body out of thin air, and then the entire venue shone so brightly that it was impossible to see clearly. So even if the people around her wanted to threaten him, she didn't care, but continued to be cruel, kicking Charles's face until it was completely dented, and his whole body flew away. Hey, Lord Ivan. But those people are not always available. Even in the Saboti archipelago, even he can't call them, and it's too late now. Just the sound of it may excite some people with special interests. Moreover, although I haven't heard it many times, my memory is extremely fresh. Why is he here? Doglegs, who was so proud and energetic just now, was now so frightened that he couldn't even stand still, and his legs were trembling. The angry doglegs turned their heads and looked at the figure at the door in the back fiercely. Seeing that he was actually holding a child in his arms, were they looking for death? But Hancock directly used the weapon-colored entanglement kick. There wasn't even a scream. When the light returned, where the dog-legged place originally stood, there was only a burnt body that was even unrecognizable. Lord Ivan, I'm sorry, I acted rashly. Whoever dares to shoot, I will let him take a bullet. He is obviously wearing a suit and sunglasses, and looks like a human but a dog, but in fact, what he is doing is no different from that of a dog. Even the hand that was about to shoot stopped subconsciously for some reason. The queen beggar who continued to volunteer as Lord Ivan's minister even after becoming the queen. But at this moment, a voice suddenly reached everyone's ears. It was not loud, but it was extremely clear. So all his teeth immediately fell out, and his facial features were all sunken, making it impossible to see what he looked like before. Oh my gosh! But at this moment, the man suddenly took off his sunglasses, revealing his original appearance, and the scene instantly became silent. At the moment when he and everyone else were dumbfounded, that figure had silently arrived in front of the man, and then looked down upon him with contempt. 12. The strongest man in the world. The Dragon King. Please subscribe. Advertisement. The entire noisy and spacious room was now completely silent, and no one even dared to breathe loudly. Who would have thought that this heavenly Dragon King was so elusive that he suddenly appeared here? You know, when he usually goes out, he will bring more or less 10 people with him. But this time, obviously only a few were brought. The gentle sister among the butterfly sisters and the 3 snake sisters. He even has his own daughter, Rebecca. Everyone looked dumbfounded at the sakura-haired girl who was held in the arms of the adult. Their eyes began to become kind, and they absolutely did not dare to have any evil thoughts or disrespectful feelings. 643. This is the daughter of the Celestial Dragon King. Her status is much higher than that of ordinary celestial dragons. That B*********** D just now dared to say that he wanted to capture Princess Tianlong and make him a slave. He deserved to die. Don't hurt them. I have to say that the scoundrel who just died was indeed quite miserable. He was cursed even after his death. No one felt sorry for him at all, but they blamed him for not dying quickly enough. Of course, this is what you deserve. If you dare to say such things in front of the Heavenly Dragon King, what else is it if you are not seeking death? At this time, Ivan also waved his hand silently, and then the corpse in front of him seemed to be weathered, and the ashes were blown away in an instant, turning into endless dust. Oh my gosh! The appearance just now was just a skeleton, and even the bones inside were blasted to pieces. Although it has been a long time since the Heavenly Dragon King took action in person, it is still difficult to forget this powerful history. After all, he is now known as the strongest man in the world. Well, the title that was once reserved for Whitebeard has long been transferred to this man. Because a few years ago, he also had fights with the 4 pirates now known as the 4 Emperors. But they were all easily suppressed by Lord Ivan, without any ability to fight back. It can only be said that this man's strength has reached a terrifying level. But for some unknown reason, he didn't kill them or capture them, but just let them go. The severe pain woke up Charles instantly and screamed in pain again. Even if there were children present, the adults nearby quickly covered their mouths and were absolutely not allowed to speak at this time. Another leg. Another leg. At this time, Ivan also silently walked up to Charos, who had been kicked away before, and spoke lightly. I really don't know how this Heavenly Dragon King trained, and where those beautiful guards came from. Do you still want to point your gun at me? Advertisement? But everyone's consensus is that this king must not be messed with. This person, she has always hated, disgusting to death. His body was shaking violently, his voice was trembling, and he didn't even dare to look at Ivan. Of course, I still have some fear. Seeing that scene, I wonder if I will have nightmares tonight. Everyone present was dumbfounded, and many people covered their mouths. What's even more surprising is that his powerful Thunderfruit is said to have no side effects, and he can still use his power even if he enters seawater. I didn't expect to do these 5.8 things today, which is even more disgusting. Charos, are you awake? But he is not afraid of the power of seawater and sea stone at all. Almost like his father, the little Rebecca in her arms seemed to be frightened by the body that turned into ashes just now, so she buried her little face in Ivan's arms, not daring to look at it. Moreover, his several stunningly beautiful subordinates are also extremely powerful, even more powerful than the 3 current admirals. This completely subverts everyone's understanding of devil fruit. After all, although devil fruit can greatly enhance a person's strength, it still has shortcomings. His power and identity are the only existence independent of all existence. But this is not what needs to be concerned about now. At this time, seeing his eyes turning white, Ivan continued to say something incomprehensible. Even little Rebecca knew that she needed to wake up the fainted pig in front of her now. Since you haven't woken up, let's try again. But this wasn't the first time she saw her father kill someone, and she wasn't very resistant to it. Just cut off his right leg with a sword. Because she knows that her father kills all bad people, big bad people. During the trial of the Dragon King, do not interfere in anything. This is something they have recognized for many years. The people behind also held their breath and did not dare to make any sound at all. At this time, his cold voice also caused the guards to quickly put down their weapons, then kneel to the ground completely, kowtowing desperately. No, 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 we don't have this idea, Lord Ivan, spare your life. Although those people before were very bad and really annoying, when she saw her father killing them mercilessly in an instant, she was still a little scared. We definitely don't have such rebellious thoughts. However, he did not make people wait for a long time, but directly condensed a thunder sword in his hand. And then 2011205524 Fei Lu 101351581. 13 Shichibukai, the stunning queen who became a maid. Please subscribe. Advertisement today is definitely the most unforgettable day in Charles's life. He was used to being pampered, and he would feel extremely uncomfortable even if he encountered something slightly unsatisfactory. Not to mention that he was kicked so many times today. If his grandma saw it, she would be very distressed. Of course, if his grandmother, who had already gone to hell and suffered, saw her grandson provoking this heavenly dragon king again, she would probably have to survive. It's not good to provoke anyone, but this evil star must be provoked. Some people may say that Hancock took the initiative himself. But the problem is, he dared to blatantly violate the regulations first. If you make too much noise, I'll cut out your tongue. Sure enough, at this time, even if I beat myself to death, I wouldn't be able to say a word. My legs. Damn woman. I will make your life worse than death. The only one who dared to speak at this time was naturally Charos, and he was still shouting in pain. Apparently he hadn't noticed his situation yet, and thought that Hancock had done the chop just now. That's right, he fainted just now, how could he know? Who are you going to make life worse than death? When he was a child, he originally thought that he was the greatest person in the world, as great as his father. Previously in Chapter 9, it was said that Roswald had no celestial dragons to marry him, and then married an ordinary nobleman, but now I think of it, the current age of Charos should be 14, which is more in line with the current situation. There was something wrong with the setting of the arrogant situation, so I changed Chapter 9 to show that Roswald married a Tianlong woman, not Shirley Leah, of course. Charos was already born at that time, but was killed by Ivan. After a lesson, he was divorced by the other party and then excluded. This setting is normal, with the queen of a country as her maid, closely following her, and in a country like Nine Snakes that advocates force, I am afraid that only the Dragon King can enjoy this kind of treatment. There is only infinite fear and regret. Seeing the Hancock in front of him who had taken off his sunglasses to reveal a world-class beauty, Charles didn't have any evil thoughts at this time. Well, then I finally realized that there were existences more noble than them in the world. Of course it's that damn woman. You're blind. This kind of problem requires, Yes, I'm sorry, Lord Ivan. I didn't know it was you just now. But after hearing that his father's legs had been chopped off, he was dumbfounded. Advertisement and unprecedented sense of fear suddenly emerged from his heart, making his whole person become extremely frightened. Why is Lord Ivan here? But she herself did not stay among the Nine Snakes, but continued to follow Ivan Tianren. The king of celestial dragons, among the celestial dragons, is also an extremely noble and absolutely irresistible existence. Obviously, this subordinate's words made him extremely dissatisfied. Ivan Los Astoria. Naturally, Charles already knew this woman. It would be better to say that most of the people present had seen her before. I couldn't say a word for a long time, and even at this moment, I forgot the pain. How could this happen? However, the people of the Nine Snakes Kingdom did not have any dissatisfaction. On the contrary, they were extremely in agreement, and now they have become very obedient. Even the Nine Snakes, pirate group, has been recognized as a conqueror of the world, and Boa Hancock has also become a conqueror. One of the Shichibukai, she seemed to have almost become a slave in her early years, but she was saved on the spot by Lord Ivan, along with her two sisters. Even the celestial dragons, who are as arrogant and stupid as he is, have a name that they cannot forget. If it were him, then that woman just now, isn't it surprising? You didn't seem to care at all about Lord Ivan's orders just now, didn't you? Of course, everyone knows that this is just to give her a name to stay here. It's just that when he followed the voice with extreme annoyance and stared at it, he was completely dumbfounded. No, that's not the case. Although he only had one leg left, at this time, Charos, who was originally fat and slow to move, used his unexpected agility to kneel on the ground and use his remaining left leg. It's actually this woman. There was also an unprecedented look of fear in his eyes. After returning to Nine Snakes once, she defeated the queen of her country and ascended the throne. Charos growled angrily at the voice that responded to his question. And hands, forcibly supporting the ground. OMG, Boa Hancock, the queen of the daughter country Amazon Lily, and the captain of the Nine Snakes Pirates. 14 kneeled down and apologized to her as a slave. Please subscribe. Advertisement. As we all know, Shichibukai is a great pirate recognized by the world government, possessing catastrophic destructive power and huge combat power that rivals the country. Among the three major forces known as the Grand Line together with the four emperors and naval headquarters, only pirates who are well known or powerful enough to intimidate everyone are eligible to be selected as the 7 warlords of the sea. Among the entire Shichibukai, Boa Hancock is the only female Shichibukai. And she is still less than 20 years old, but she possesses extremely powerful strength. In a country where everyone can use hockey, she has become the queen with absolute power. She is also an extremely beautiful woman with a plump and voluptuous figure. But obviously, this rose flower will only bloom for one man. The matter between Queen Shichibukai and the Heavenly Dragon King is no longer a secret. When he was young, he almost became a slave, but was rescued by the handsome, powerful and noble king, and then became the sharpest blade. A story like this would not even be told in third-rate novels. But it does exist in reality. Up to now, the daughter country has completely surrendered to world conquest. Oh no, to be precise, he surrendered to the Heavenly Dragon King alone. They didn't obey the orders of conquest at all, and they didn't care about the so-called orders at all. They would only obey the words of the Heavenly Dragon King. It can be said that it is the personal armed force of the Heavenly Dragon King. This kind of thing is naturally extremely enviable, but it can only be said that it is impossible to envy. Then do you mean that we have wronged you? Or do you think that my ears are deaf and my eyes are blind? I was wrong. I was really wrong, Lord Ivan. Of course, now is not the time to envy those things. After hearing the other party's series of questions, Charos did not dare to defend himself, and could only continue to say that he had done something wrong. Even with a pig brain like his, he must have understood that if he said anything else, he would only get something chopped off. The Heavenly Dragon King has a hobby. That is, he likes to ask questions according to your wishes. If you say something wrong, cut off your tongue. If you do something randomly, your hands or feet will be cut off. If you disobey his order, you will feel that you do not have ears or eyes. Anyway, he likes to use this kind of torture to treat many people, especially Tianlong Ping. Advertisement. But now, the people present did not resist Miu. Instead, most of them showed some yearning or even fanatic eyes. He relied on such thunderous methods to restrain the celestial dragons to a great extent, which was much better than before. Of course, Charles Ross is actually one of the few exceptions. The other celestial dragons would at most complain quietly in private, but they didn't even dare to show their hostility towards Ivan in front of other celestial dragons, for fear of being recorded and used to deceive them. But Charles Ross is really the only one in recent years who dares to openly risk his reputation like this. Don't resist him. What did I do wrong? At this time, Ivan continued to hold the thunder sword in front of Charos and looked down at him coldly. Although Ivan's grade is now almost 30, and Charles is only 14 years old. But from the looks of the two of them, Charles is actually bigger. I didn't see Lord Ivan. I violated Lord Ivan's order and was rude to Miss Hancock. I apologize. I apologize. Of course, Charles didn't care about this at this time. Instead, he was just like the low-class people he originally looked down on. He quickly kowtowed and apologized, and also kowtowed to Hancock on the side. They look like maids, but in fact, who doesn't know that those are all his women? The younger sister of the Butterfly Sisters, the maid who first followed him, seems to have been pregnant recently, so she may not have appeared this time. But you have to say, in the eyes of the Celestial Dragon King, is his woman more important, or an ordinary celestial dragon's? Even a pig-brained person would know who to choose. Of course, Hancock didn't want this scumbag's apology at all. After a look of disgust appeared on his face, he immediately ducked back behind Ivan and stood with the other two sisters. The three of them all had a look of disgust on their faces, and they glanced away with dissatisfaction, not even bothering to see this ugly face. When I see this face, I think of that damn celestial dragons who almost bought them back then. Oh, the celestial dragons are in a similar situation to this family now. They're isolated, and even with their fake ears, they can't hear clearly at all. I still need an apology. Yes, I'm sorry, Lord Ivan, I did something wrong. It's not about me, it's about this girl. Didn't you just say that you can kill her if you want to? Do you regard her as a slave? When did I give you such a right? So, kneel down, apologize to her, slave. Everyone, including Charos, looked dumbly at the girl whose face Ivan was pointing at with a completely frozen expression. Even the girl herself was dumbfounded. Let a celestial dragons apologize to a slave. This world is so crazy. 15 can't kneel down? So cut it off, please subscribe. Advertisement times are changing, and so will identities. But the only thing that remains unchanged may be the human heart. At least, Ivan has not changed his mind so far. People may not be equal. But he is very happy that he now belongs to a party with rights and strength. When you see this scene with your own eyes, you can do something you want to do. Just like now. What, can't you understand me? Order this damn scumbag to do what he least wants to do. No, no, Lord Ivan. It's just me. After hearing these words, Charos's face turned green. He was obviously extremely unwilling, and his facial expressions began to distort. The girl named Kral, who was stared at in fear, also froze up, and the smile on her face became extremely ugly, almost to the point of being choked. Obviously, not to mention other people, even the girl herself did not expect that these 193 things would happen. She knew her identity very well, and although she didn't know who this fat man was, his identity must be extremely noble. But now? This gentleman actually allowed this noble lord to kneel down to a lowly person like her? This kind of thing is too ridiculous, but there are such ridiculous things in the world. What you want to do and what you can do is not up to you personally. But for the sake of those in power, here, of course, I only want to see Ivan. What? Can't you hear what Master Ivan said? Why are you hesitating about this? Do you want to disobey Lord Ivan's order? Or, in fact, you have never taken Lord Ivan's orders seriously? Do you even think that you are the king? Seed. No, it's not like that. At this time, the three Hancock sisters also began to question him, making chasing Charles even more troublesome. The three people's eyes are now very stern and their attitudes are very decisive. But everyone actually knows their attitude. The three of them were all victims of the slave trade. If they had not been rescued by Lord Ivan just after being captured, who knows what their situation would be now. Therefore, it is only natural for them to help this little girl speak. In fact, this is indeed the case. When they saw this girl, they thought of themselves back then. Advertisement: this girl is even worse. After all, they're still three sisters together, and they have something to rely on in their hearts. And this girl looks like this. Even though the skin on her body looks clean, she probably hasn't been sold before, but when you see the suppressed smile on her face, you know that she must have experienced a very painful experience. It's all caused by these scumbags. It's not that, but XN at this time, Charos, who was still looking for excuses and didn't want to kneel down to crawl, suddenly let out an extremely painful cry again and fell to the ground. Yes, got down, because the other supporting foot also disappeared. The body, which was originally over 2 meters tall but out of proportion, was now even more out of balance, with only half of its height remaining. Just like his father, if possible, the Roswald family must hate Ivan to death and wish to kill him as soon as possible. But the reality is that evil people must be punished by even more evil people. In this regard, Ivan is very happy to be the villain. It wasn't that he wanted to give Kral a special outlet or anything. Even if she is a character that appears in the original work, Ivan has already lived in this world for 30 years. Whether these things appear in the original work actually has no great impact on him. Just like Shirley, Leah and her 5 best friends did not appear in the original work. But here, Ivan still went to Shirley and with some of her best friends. How should I put it, the relationship is still good. After all, her personality has indeed changed a lot over the years, and she is very obedient to his words and has always been his little fangirl. Therefore, even he was a little proud and had some relatively close contact with them. Of course, Shirley is the only one at present, with his daughter, and the rest are gone. Due to his special situation, the decision whether to let them get pregnant or not is actually up to him. It's a little crooked. What he means is that, whether he is a character in the original work or not, he can do this as long as he wants. This fat pig, whether in the original book or here, is quite annoying, and it is normal for him to be taught a lesson. However, this sword was not made by him. His own thunder sword has been cancelled. And none of the other 3 sisters used swords. Then the only one left who can take action is. I think Mr. Charles wants to be obedient, but his legs and feet are not very good, so I will help you. Butterfly sister. Kanae said this with a gentle face that made people shudder. 16 Say one more word and I will cut out your tongue, please subscribe. Advertisement: as we all know, there are 4 very powerful beauties guarding Tianlong King. The stewardess, Albedo, who can easily see into everyone's hearts. Acedes, the cold and proud queen who can proudly freeze everything. There are 2 others, the Butterfly sisters, who seem to have the same gentle temperament, Butterfly Ninja, and Butterfly Kanae. However, unlike Shinobu, who would often take action for the sake of the Heavenly Dragon King, and would occasionally speak with venomous words, Kanae had always been extremely gentle in the past 10 years. When we meet them on the road, they will be very approachable and easygoing, and can get along extremely harmoniously with everyone. It seems that no one has ever seen her other side besides gentleness. Until today. He looked at the beautiful woman who smiled and pointed the slashing sword in his hand at Charos again. Everyone couldn't help feeling that their necks seemed to be a little chilly. To be honest, this lady used to be very, very gentle, and she also liked children very much. She would often touch the faces and heads of those little girls. It can be said that she is equally gentle from the inside out, much gentler than the sinister Miss Shinobu. But from now on, maybe let your children stay away from this Miss Kanae. Of course, in fact, there is no need to worry so much. Over the years, she has basically never been angry. Her sword exists to kill evil spirits. Now, it is actually just used for cooking like Shinobu. After all, I am also a girl now, but at the age of 27, and you still call yourself a girl. Wouldn't that make you a little bit cheeky? Kanae, who was thinking this way, also chuckled and held her cheek and chin with her left hand, continuing to smile gently. It's just that in the eyes of others present, especially Charles, this smile is like a devil. Of course, Kanae herself doesn't care about this. Although most of her swords are now only used for cooking, if there are evils appearing, they can also be killed. In her opinion, Charles Ross is obviously just like those evil ghosts, even more extreme. Some evil ghosts are forced to become ghosts and eat people as a last resort, but this person is simply a scumbag. Still, it's still inconvenient for you now, why don't you go down? No, I kneel, please forgive me for my mistake, I was wrong. After hearing the words behind Kanae's words, Charos finally gave in completely. He quickly turned around and knocked his head on the ground so hard that his legs were still bleeding, bright red blood. This scene is deeply imprinted in the hearts of everyone present, and I am afraid they will never forget it for the rest of their lives. Kral, who was being kowtowed on the head, may have felt great pressure, so he couldn't help but his legs softened and he almost turned back. Advertisement, of course, someone would not let her do this, and held her hand in advance. Okay, I'll let you go this time. Go home and reflect for a year, and don't go out again. Yes. Thank you, Lord Ivan, for sparing your life. After receiving Ivan's answer, Charos's face finally relaxed, and he fainted not long after. The losers on the side also came over quickly, carried him away, and left here in a hurry. If you continue to stay now, you will just be despised by others. There is no way at all. Only Kral raised his head stupidly, looking at Ivan, who was still holding her hand. His ethereal eyes suddenly couldn't help but have a complicated look. Things are almost done, and it's time to disband. I will be responsible for all the workers here today. Do you have any objections? Asterisk. At this time, Ivan also silently held Clara's hand, then turned to look at the host who had been kneeling on the ground and did not dare to say a word, and said silently. No objection, Sir Ivan, you have the final say. Naturally, the host waved his hands and explained hurriedly. Although he was very concerned about whether the little girl's 50 million belly was still priced at this price, he didn't dare to ask now. However, there was actually no need for him to ask this, because this question would soon have nothing to do with him. Oh, let me say one more thing. Oh, you said it. Starting tomorrow, you don't have to work here anymore. Get off this island. Lord Ivan. What do you mean? It's nothing, I just feel disgusted by you and don't want to see you. I'll find someone more obedient. Jare. Say one more word and I'll cut out your tongue. XN. After hearing this, the host immediately remained silent. Even through those gorgeous star sunglasses, you can still see his confusion. What on earth is this? Why was he suddenly fired after such good performance? But other people present have actually more or less guessed it. Alas, I don't know whether this king is too cruel or too soft-hearted. Someone asked in the comments that I am has no power. I will explain it later. Naturally, it is impossible for I am to only have the power of prophecy, and she will not die, so the 5 elders have nothing to do with her, rather than pure loyalty. If I am wants to kill the 5 elders, it is easy to understand. It can be understood that I am using his power for prophecy and immortality, but I can get it back at any time. It seems that I can only reply 3 times a day. It often disappears, which makes me depressed. Advertisement 17. I slept with my dad yesterday, please subscribe. Advertisement. Oh, it's quite good, isn't this cute? Indeed, I couldn't tell before that she looks quite delicate. That's not the case, I thought Kral-chan was very cute from the beginning. Looking at the young and cute girl in front of her who was wearing a black and white maid uniform, the girls present couldn't help but smile with some surprise on their faces. I saw this girl before. She looked a little sloppy, and her clothes and hair were a little messy, so she seemed quite ordinary. But now after cleaning and trimming the child, they found that the girl was quite good looking and very cute. When she grows up, she will definitely become a quite iconic beauty. But maybe it was the first time that she dressed so cleanly, 707, and became so beautiful. Looking at herself in the mirror, Clara couldn't even recognize her. But now that she saw so many people staring at her, she felt a lot of pressure. I saw a little dust here, I need to clean it 10 times. As soon as she opened her mouth, she knelt down beside her and started wiping with a rag. All the girls present showed a look of confusion on their faces, except for Kanae, who had a look of distress on her face. You don't have to work so hard, you can take a break. She could probably tell what was going on, so she couldn't help but persuade her. It should be that this child has encountered too many bad things, so he has developed the habit of working constantly. Smiling is also to reduce being beaten and scolded. He really should take a good rest. It doesn't matter, I can continue to work well, so please don't throw me away. We won't abandon you, we. Okay, Kanae, let her continue. She originally wanted to continue persuading her, but while she was talking, Ivan suddenly interrupted her, and Shang Shikai came down. But my lord, this child. She has been working. If she stopped, she would feel uncomfortable. It would be good to work a little bit and get used to it little by little. Okay, that's all it can do, but after hearing Ivan's words, Kanae also showed a somewhat complicated expression, and then looked at Kral who was working and sighed softly. They are now back among Marijoy, and the labor children have been assigned to work. Of course, children usually do relatively easy jobs, allowing them to learn and accept life here little by little. However, if they still have family members, they can also contact each other to redeem them. As for the price, it should be the purchase price. After all, Ivan doesn't like to do loss-making business, nor does he like to be a good person. It's a pity that those who are sold to a place like this basically don't have any family members to take them away, so they can only slowly work here to pay back the money. Although, most people are unwilling to leave when time is over. But after being exposed by her father, little Rebecca's face suddenly turned red, and she quickly changed the topic. But what she doesn't know is that from tonight on, she will always be able to live in heaven. Advertisement, it doesn't matter, I'm not short of money. Your daily job here is to follow my daughter, help her clean her room, do the laundry, and tell her to get up and go to bed on time. Do you understand? After hearing this, the smile on Kral's face couldn't help but become a little stiff. Is it really appropriate for such a noble person as Her Royal Highness to hold her hand like this? With such thoughts in mind, Kral probably couldn't sleep peacefully today. But Kral. I can take good care of myself, so, Kral, I need to give you more advice in the future. This is too simple, right? But at this time, little Rebecca, who had been watching Kral's work in Ivan's arms, couldn't help but mutter a little complaint. No need to call me that, my name is Rebecca, just call me by my name, Kral. Of course, this possibility is absolutely impossible. Could it be that after being discovered by someone, they would be cut into pieces? Rebecca-sama, well, Lord Ivan, what other jobs do you have? Is this paradise-like place really suitable for her to live in? After hearing Ivan's question, Kral quickly raised his head, then trotted up to Ivan, raised his head and smiled at him and asked. Clara seems to be a few years older than her, but he is already so capable, so he should work hard too. No, I'm just telling you about your work problem. You know I bought you for 50 million belly, right? I don't keep idle people for nothing. Of course, it is full of laughter, Mr. 5.8, Your Highness the Princess. When he heard Ivan's words, Kral couldn't help but trembled for the first time, but he still kept a bright smile on his face and continued to talk about very humble things. It's true, Dad, I've reached the age where I don't need anyone else to take care of me. Her workload has been many times that of this. Can this alone allow her to live in such a good place? But this smile still needs to be as fake as possible, which makes people feel very depressed when they look at it. I will definitely work hard and try to pay it off in my lifetime. And he walked up to Kral, and in her astonished eyes, he grabbed her little hand. Just Rebecca, after all, there was no place to go back to in the first place. Now that we are living here and enjoying the benefits, why not stay here? Yes, I am very grateful to Mr. Ivan, so although I don't know when I will be able to repay the money, please give me a little bit of food to survive. That's all. My daughter is very naughty. You may feel a little tired when you take her with you. If you are too tired, just take a rest. I will ask others to take care of her. I understand, yes. Lord Ivan, where do you want me to wipe it? Haha. You were still insisting on asking Dad to sleep yesterday, so you don't need anyone else to take care of you now? 18 World Summit, don't bother lousy picking up girls, please subscribe. Advertisement 1 month later, Marijoy, Klar, hurry up. Lady Rebecca, don't run so fast, it's already very slow, Klar, you still need to exercise well. I've been exercising very hard, I really can't exercise anymore. Come here quickly, otherwise I'll leave you, I know, I'll come right away, Lady Rebecca is really too mean. The children are still so cute, but running like this will be dangerous, should we dissuade them, my lord? Looking at the two young girls running happily on the grass not far away, Kanae smiled, and then asked Yi Fan who was sipping coffee beside her softly. There's no need, let them play by themselves, with Rebecca's physical condition, nothing will happen, and isn't Klar quite happy now? That's true, after hearing his answer, Kanae chuckled again, and then silently looked at the orange shoulder-length hair girl wearing a maid outfit with a helpless and tired smile on her face. What a beautiful smile. Unconsciously, a month has passed. Clara's personality has changed a lot recently. Although she is still smiling all the time, because of Rebecca's innocent smile, her heart has also changed, and her smile has become much warmer. It's just that the habit of liking to work, I still can't stop. When I see a place that may be a little dirty, I will subconsciously want to wipe it off, just don't want to let myself be idle. This makes people feel a little funny and a little distressed. Speaking of which, the Lord seems to be a little depressed recently. Is it because the teacher was rejected by Shinobu recently? But at this time, she also looked at the man opposite her and asked with a smile. There are only the two of them here, and the two little guys not far away, and the rest are some other maids. But they are standing far away, and their relationship with them is not that close. Well, Hancock and the others are not here, leaving Shinobu, Scarlet and Miss Shirley. Advertisement after all, it is a critical moment now, so they don't go out much, even the three sisters have gone there, and they can also learn from experience. Well, this is of course a reason, but it's really too much to drive me out as soon as I went there. I just wanted to hug her, but she was forcibly pushed away. At first, he was quite happy, but later on, Ivan also showed a depressed look. Of course, he wanted to find Shinobu, and he went there almost every day. But every time, before he could say a few words, he wanted to hold her hand, hug her, kiss her, etc., but she would stop at a short time, and then she would send him back, leaving him helpless. Of course, it can be seen that Shinobu is still very happy, but because of Face, she didn't want him to get close to her in front of so many people. Well, even though she is pregnant, Shinobu is actually very conservative in this regard. She would even be a little shy if she was seen holding his hand, let alone being hugged all the time. Even if she was seen by her own people, she would be embarrassed. After all, Shinobu-chan is very shy, just be patient for a while. Be patient, alas, I don't even have someone to hug recently, it feels empty. But he was a little depressed. Recently, his 3 wives have all gathered together, but he is empty-handed and can't even hug anyone. At most, he can only hug little Rebecca. But the feeling of hugging a daughter and hugging a wife is completely different. A few days ago, Hancock and the others were still there, but they ran away these days. The Lord is really asking for a lot in this regard. I can't help it. After all, I am a normal man. Otherwise, Kanae-chan, come and let me hug you. Hearing this address, she also saw the man 580 next to her suddenly approaching her, with a silver bullet smile on his face. A subtle blush began to appear on Kanae's face, and her little heart began to beat rapidly. To be honest, she was I am happy to do so. After all, after so many years, my sister is about to have a child, but I still have no place to go. I always feel like a failure. So, how about taking this opportunity to talk to the Lord directly? Sir Ivan, excuse me, the time and thread of the king's participation in the conference have been summarized. Do you have time to review it? X2 hearing the speech of the maid not far away and the document in her hand, Ivan and Kanae both returned to their original positions calmly, as if nothing had happened. Alas, do you have to come at this time? It's just a World Summit, don't bother lousy to pick up girls. 19 World Summit is back, please subscribe, advertisement. Alabasta, that old boy from Cobra, will arrive in 2 weeks. Dressrosa and the Kingdom of Protence are still together. Both sides will arrive a week later. My father-in-law's side will be a little later. Wanokuni brought Zoe here directly this time. It's interesting, it's quite open. 9 snakes. Sci-Fi is coming too. Looking at the contents of the document in front of him, Ivan couldn't help but feel emotional. It was supposed to be a 4-year meeting, but I don't know if it was changed because of him. The countries from these countries were very happy to make more trips. So in the meeting 2 years ago, they revised the regulations and changed it to once every 2 years, and asked him if it was okay. He did the same thing at the time and just walked around without listening to anything. Now that he has made his decision, what are you asking him to do? But he doesn't have any objections. Now that countries are strengthening ties, there are actually certain benefits. There are many problems that could not be solved before, but they can be improved through communication between all parties, especially the war. Why do some places like war so much? Is it simply because the people there are warlike? In fact, who would want their country to be at war all day long if they could? Conflicts in various aspects such as resources, population, beliefs, culture, etc. are actually the various complex factors that can easily lead to war. But in fact, in many cases if resources and funds can be communicated well, wars can be reduced a lot. Of course, some people think that human nature is greedy. When you get something, you will want more. This is indeed true. But there is another thing that cannot be forgotten, that is, Ivan is not a good person. If you only ask endlessly and don't know how to provide some corresponding good things and prices, no one will pay attention to you. Minerals, resources, technology, etc. If that is not possible, labor can also be provided. Although it sounds a little bad, Some places do need manpower. If you are really too poor and there are no job opportunities in your country, you can also go to other countries that are in need of labor to earn a certain amount of money. Weak and poor countries are like this sometimes. You can't expect everyone to feed you and then wait for free prostitution, right? Of course, in name, it definitely does not mean going to another country directly, but entrusting, world conquest, conquer. Today's world conquest can be said to be equivalent to becoming a middleman and earning a slight price difference. After the World Summit ended, she didn't really want to leave, but continued to follow her lord, and from time to time she would ask her lord to go sit in 9 snakes or something. Well, after all, there are still no men there. Many people have never even seen a man other than him, so naturally, face issues can be avoided as much as possible, which is really important for a country. Maybe, I hope she and Hancock don't quarrel. Huh? Has the Drum Kingdom got a new king? What, Wang Qian's, best of both worlds would be troublesome? Advertisement. It's not that she's rebellious, on the contrary, it's better to say that she listens to him too much and is completely his loyal fangirl, almost like Hancock. However, when it comes to poor and small countries, the price is generally not too high. Basically, we just get some from rich and big countries. But soon, he also noticed something. Therefore, Ivan also had a headache. He tried to persuade her many times, but the effect was not obvious. But the previous queen was also an incredible beauty, with excellent appearance, figure and temperament, no worse than Hancock. Yes, I heard that the previous king died of illness. Even though it is a great medical country, there is no way to deal with some diseases. He died relatively young. His son Wapple succeeded to the throne. What's wrong, my lord? At this time, Kanae also pursed her lips and chuckled, and teased a little bit. And if someone dared to refute him in a meeting, she would even get very angry and almost get into a fight. I think what Miss Saife means is to keep your heir and let the other party inherit it. Wouldn't this give you the best of both worlds? Unknowingly, it has already reached this point in time. It's just that the two of them will quarrel whenever they get together, and even if he really goes to her, the candidate for the next queen will still be a problem. Because the probability of changing a king in just 2 years is relatively small, most of the king's lists have not changed. It's nothing, I just feel like time flies by so fast. Ahaha, it may not be realistic. After all, their personalities are quite similar, but she is also very beautiful. Why don't you just marry her? In his mind, he complained slightly to the smiling woman in front of him. Ivan looked at the document again a little feebly and continued to browse. For other countries, it was actually fine, but the acting queen of 9 Snakes Island made him a little depressed. Is that the acting queen of 9 Snakes? That lady has always been obsessed with the Lord. This time she comes here to meet the Lord for the first time in a long time. The intention is naturally very obvious. Ivan shook his head and still denied this statement. There is only one familiar country, and the name of the king has changed. Indeed, to be able to be the king of 9 snakes, the first key is naturally strength, and strength means greatness. At least you have to be stronger than them. Some who once had the shame to beg other countries can now secretly entrust the world conquest, and through their side, the problem can be solved smoothly. Faced with Kanae's teasing, Ivan also shook his head in confusion. But it doesn't mean that they will accept any man. Therefore, in fact, most countries have been able to obtain some of the results they want since these meetings. After all, the entire daughter country is now filled with a fanatical love for him, as if everyone wants to marry him. She had met the acting queen several times. If I marry her, who will be the next queen? Maybe they will want to follow me then, and it will be an infinite cycle, and they also like to make trouble, so it's better not to let them go. 20 kings as fathers-in-law, subscribe, advertisement. Marijoy in Pangu City. Today is the day for the World Summit. Unlike the previous 4-year meeting, this is the first special short meeting. It has been held again after only 2 years, which shows that the connection between the worlds has become closer. And among them, naturally, the relationship between some kings will become better. Oh, King Riku, Elizabeth, long time no see, Cobra. Really long time no see. Ha ha ha. You still look the same, energetic. At this time, 3 kings dressed in different costumes gathered together, and their faces showed a happy smile from the heart. Although one of the countries is far away from the countries on both sides of them, it may take nearly a month to get there by boat. But even if the culture, customs, and personalities are different, the heart for the country and the sense of justice are the same. Since they met at the World Summit 10 years ago, the relationship between the 3 of them has become good. Although they may not have much interaction in normal times, their mutual recognition is 110 from the heart. After all, there were not many people who dared to speak directly to the Dragon King at that time. And now, there are naturally even fewer. After all, the Dragon King has done a lot of things that benefit the people and has changed the world. And overall, it is actually developing in a good direction. Who could have foreseen this when they first met 10 years ago? Speaking of which, Violet has grown up now and is getting better and better. But at this time, Cobra, the king of Alabasta, also smiled and looked at a dark-skinned black-haired girl wearing a dress behind King Riku, and said with some emotion. Uncle Cobra praised me too much, haha, your father really taught well. Both daughters are so outstanding, unlike the one in my family. The girl also smiled and spoke in a relaxed tone. She was not shy, she was very decent and generous, which made Cobra nod his head, but also smiled slightly bitterly. This girl was still young and lively 2 years ago, but when she came here this time, she behaved very well, just like a princess should. Like the little girl in his own family, she even went to playhouse and played some pirate games, and almost got into danger before she disbanded. No, she is just pretending. When she was at home, she was always clamoring to come here to see her sister. Father. Ha ha ha. X2 but soon, the girl also complained awkwardly because of her father's sabotage, which made the two kings laugh, and she herself pouted her lips in dissatisfaction, and the elegant posture just now disappeared. Well, in fact, little girls of this age don't like elegance so much. Even princesses are mostly lively and active types. Rather than seeing her sister, it's more appropriate to say she's seeing her brother-in-law. I've heard her say the word, brother-in-law, countless times along the way. X3. That's not the case, Master Vivi. This is a place that needs to be taken seriously. Oh, really? Where is it? Advertisement? Yes, Vivi is 8 years old this year, and she is here this time too. Whatever, he's smiling like an old man. OMG, but indeed, it is reasonable for her to be excited at the thought of meeting the powerful Heavenly Dragon King. What? I don't understand. It's too boring. That seat is so big. Who is it for? I'll go take a look. Ha ha ha. X2 but soon, Elizabeth Luo, who was standing next to her, laughed and said something that shouldn't have been said, making the atmosphere a little awkward. But unfortunately, Sadie backfired. After meeting someone, this girl always liked to pester him. In fact, there is no need to explain this matter explicitly, because everyone has already made sense of it. The father-in-law in the title is of course not just King Riku. Yes, he is 6 years old. I came to see that child today. Speaking of which, your daughter seems to be 2 years older than her, right? But it actually didn't matter. When the Heavenly Dragon King first appeared 10 years ago, he just abducted King Liku's daughter, which made him very embarrassed on the spot. Princess Vivi, please slow down and don't walk so fast. Even if it's embarrassing again now, it actually doesn't matter. But as long as you are here, you should be able to see it sooner or later. When a muscular man with a giant sword on his back saw this, he originally wanted to remind him, but after being glared at, he could only close his mouth, and then ask several guards next to him to follow him quickly. Even the so-called hero himself, who has 3001 games in a row, is not worth mentioning at all in his opinion. It's still the case now, and there's nothing he can do as a father. Violet's face suddenly turned red, and then she held her cheeks with both hands, twisted her body slightly embarrassedly, showing a completely girlish posture, and the smiles on Cobra and King Riku's faces were also a little stiff. Especially for a serious person like King Riku, he actually doesn't want that kind of thing to happen. Alas, this is the holy land of world conquest, Marijoy, and it is not their own Alabasta. This would be a loss of national dignity. Alas, it's time for Her Royal Highness to distinguish the occasion. Why are you running around now? It doesn't matter, no one is here to see me. I just ran away when no one was around. It's a pity that I have to follow King Riku all the time now and can't take a step away, otherwise I should be able to see him a little earlier. Maybe she is wandering around, so the little girl is in trouble now. Seeing the three kings in front of her laughing knowingly, Violet couldn't help but secretly complained in her heart, and then quietly slipped away. No way. Master Vivi, you can't sit there, XN, ahem. Speaking of which, your eldest daughter's children are quite old now, right? You absolutely cannot sit on this. To be honest, this is not a glorious thing. Seeing the cute blue-haired girl running around in front of them, the guards around them couldn't help but said with a headache. Feeling that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, Cobra coughed and then changed the topic. My family knows about my affairs, but if someone outside knows about it, it would be a bit difficult to mention it. 21 The King is a gangster. Please subscribe. Advertisement. What? The seat is placed there, isn't it just for people to sit on? It also depends on the person, Master Vivi. This is not a place for others to sit. This is the special seat for the Heavenly Dragon King. Yes, if you sit without permission, it will bring disaster to us Alabasta. Looking at the blue-haired girl in front of her, her mouth had turned into a cute little balloon shape, but the two people next to her didn't feel as dumbfounded as usual. Some of them were just happy. Not bad, I didn't just ask Master Wei Wei to run over and sit down. Otherwise, their country may now face an unprecedented disaster. Is it so dangerous? Didn't you hear that the Heavenly Dragon King is very easy to talk to? When hearing this, the blue-haired little Princess Vivi couldn't help but open her mouth wide and subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She didn't expect that such a position would be so important. She had also heard about using the Heavenly Dragon King since she was a child. The slavery system has been changed, and various countries have cooperated with each other, reducing a lot of wars, and the pirates are now much more honest. The whole world has become more harmonious. Although the previous era of great pirates has not passed yet, the casualties of civilians have indeed been reduced a lot. He has even begun to write a personal biography about him, and even an epic poem. Even his serious father spoke very highly of the Heavenly Dragon King. So Vivi admires this person very much and has always regarded him as an idol, and she really wants to meet him. But now she heard that the other party was so cruel, which made her a little scared. Master Vivi, this position is quite special. After all, it symbolizes the supreme status of the Heavenly Dragon King. If others touch it, it will be equivalent to provoking the Heavenly Dragon King. But, didn't father say that all countries are equal? Why is the Heavenly Dragon King special? DB. X2. But after hearing this, she also asked a bit strangely, and the two people next to her were speechless for a moment, not knowing how to answer. Well, this question is a bit serious, and they really don't know how to answer it. Theoretically speaking, every country is indeed a franchise country for world conquest and is equal. And after joining, even if the size of the country is different, there is no way to say which status will be higher or lower than who. But Marijoy is not one of the countries joining the world conquest. On the contrary, world conquest is controlled by the Dragon King. If you really don't want to listen, just withdraw from the world and conquer the participating countries. But in that case, we will face more problems, it will be troublesome to the point of numbness, and we may even be conquered by the world and targeted. And after the Dragon King came, their lives did not become worse, but instead became better. Therefore, apart from the name hanging on his head, it is not a big problem. But, if you tell Lady Vivi about this matter, will she understand? Because the Heavenly Dragon King is the manager of world conquest. But at this moment, a slightly joking voice came from not far away, making the three of them startled. Although the distance is relatively far, my father often talks about the king of this country, King Riku, who is a very good king and they have a very good relationship. Advertisement. Oh, it's really Princess Violet, she looks like this. Maybe she felt a little embarrassed to be treated like this, so Vivi shyly changed the subject and prepared to leave. After all, if someone heard the conversation just now, it would inevitably have to be recited. Since the kings on both sides were on good terms with each other, the people below them naturally knew each other and had a good relationship with each other. They even drank together, so there was naturally no conflict. Speaking of which, our father should be starting a formal meeting soon. Why don't you go over and take a look first? Don't be surprised, you may not have come here to see it. Now that my brother-in-law is not here, they can't borrow money, so they must be arguing about who is right. They keep arguing, it happens every time. Good, are you? Princess Violet? After hearing the words of the white-faced man on the side, Vivi quickly reacted, then raised her skirt slightly to salute, smiled and said hello politely, completely showing the elegance of an aristocrat. Yeah, but you don't need to call me princess, just call me sister. Rogue, and I heard that, it's really been a long time no see. Yes, Mr. Gaka and Mr. Bell, long time no see, but the two guards on the side did not stop him. Instead, they followed the guards behind Violet and looked at each other with a relaxed smile. But after seeing each other's appearance clearly, the two guards couldn't help but smile and greeted each other harmoniously. It was obvious that they were familiar with each other. Haha, don't be so nervous, I know Uncle Cobra very well. I've heard about your situation before, and now I finally see you. You're so cute. Dressrosa. Hello, my name is Nefeltari Vivi, please take care of me. That king's eldest daughter is exactly one of the wives of the Heavenly Dragon King. But at this time, the other party acted very cordially and came directly to touch Vivi's head, which made her stunned. Seeing the girl in front of her calling her sister obediently, Violet also had a bright smile on her face. The two of them looked like sisters. Why does this statement sound so strange? As a princess, she can naturally achieve this level. But Vivi was naturally very curious about this, and looked at this beautiful and exotic elder sister a little nervously, not knowing her identity. Just like a group of hooligans, Sister Violet. By the way, Princess Vivi, this is Princess Violet of Dressrosa. Brother-in-law. Princess Violet, are you talking about the Dragon King? However, she was a little surprised by the name of the country just now. Don't be so anxious. They must be quarreling now. There's nothing interesting to see. It gives me a headache just looking at it. But you can't sit casually in this position. Even if my brother-in-law doesn't care, others will still be confused and it will be very troublesome. Of course, this is normal. As princesses, they should go and listen to something. 22 I almost kicked a king to death, please subscribe. Advertisement. Our country of Sicilia has very strong productivity. We should invest more and expand our industrial production lines. Our country, it, has the strongest agricultural power. There are still so many people who don't have enough to eat. Why do we have to produce those heavy industries? Producing some quilts is better than giving it to you. We here in the Kingdom of Protents have recently obtained a batch of special weapons, and we have brought them here directly. If you need them, you can get some now. We are all so familiar with each other, so I will give you a discount. Oh, I'm very interested when you say this. No, now everyone is trying their best to suppress the war. How can you do the opposite, Elizabeth Luo? Damn, King Riku, are you still a good brother? I haven't sold it to the peripherals. The peripherals have been sold long ago. How dare you say that? There have been no problems in the past few years, but it's just because of you that it has become such a mess recently. I only sell weapons to you so that they can protect themselves. I don't mean to let them use them for attack. Of course, if they do, it's none of my business. You, asterisk. Oh, buy it. I just told you that I should come back later. I can't listen to you here now. Looking at the more than 100 kings from all over the world in front of them, they were all noisy and seemed to be on the verge of starting a fight. Vivi, who was only 8 years old, couldn't help but held her forehead in frustration and said in distress, while Violet on the side also complained with a wry smile. She has been here 3 times, so she is naturally very experienced. But in fact, it was not so chaotic before, and everyone was not relatively orderly anymore. Because before the quarrel really got this intense, the former 5 elders would stop it in time. But now, the 5 people were separated, and then they were surrounded by a group of kings, and were asked various things. They themselves had a look of helplessness on their faces, and asked the managers on the side to take notes, and modify some things. These are all things that can be discussed privately. They are basically borrowing money. If it is suitable, you will really agree to it when the time comes. Of course, this does not mean that there is no cost. There is still interest, but it is lower. As long as it is normal, it can be paid back. This money was actually withheld from the punishing celestial dragons, but it was indeed used in useful places. Of course, Violet didn't know the inside story very well, she just knew that these people were doing something that seemed serious. But she really couldn't stand this kind of situation. Even her father was quarreling with her friend Uncle Elizabeth Law, the King of War. The 2 people, who usually have a good relationship, really had a huge quarrel when it came to this aspect. But after it is over, it will return to the original state. Violet is also quite strange, but she is used to it. How can they listen in such a chaotic place? My father seems to be arguing with others too. Vivi was also watching a little depressed at this time. As crown princes, they can listen in some peripheral places. After all, there are some things that they need to understand in the future. Since she was brought here, it means she is a mature prince and princess and will not mess around. Moreover, it also represents the face of one's own country. If one does something rude, it may cause conflicts. However, Vivi noticed that even her father was arguing with the king. The other party turned around and left in a fit of anger. My father also looked very angry. He slapped the table before sitting down, looking furious. It seems that we have encountered some trouble, but it's not good for us here now. Why don't we go out and take a rest? After hearing what Violet said next to her, Vivi nodded obediently, and then led her out of the room. After all, in this situation, they princesses can't actually play any role. Even if they go, they will only hinder their father's work. Alas, this is politics. That guy Cobra, he talks about responsibility and stuff, and Lousy is so angry after hearing that. But not long after she came out, Vivi heard her father's name in the aisle. Advertisement. I saw the king who was as fat as a hippopotamus, and was arguing with his father inside just now. He was kicking the wall next to him with a look of displeasure on his face, obviously complaining and venting his anger. Behind him, there was a tall man with an indifferent expression, who should be a guard. Vivi is a smart girl, so she naturally knows what is happening, but for the sake of the overall situation, she still pretends that nothing happened. However, when the man saw Vivi, his eyes suddenly changed, and when Vivi came closer, he suddenly bumped into her on purpose, knocking the young Vivi to the ground. The surrounding guards obviously did not expect this situation, not even the king's guard, who looked stunned. Be careful when you walk. What's even more annoying is that at this time, he actually said this out of the blue. He was obviously the one who hit someone first. Everyone heard what he said just now and didn't want to cause trouble, but they also noticed it. Obviously Vivi was already walking in a corner, but he still took the initiative to come over and knocked Vivi down. You, Sister Violet. I'm fine, I'm sorry, I was not walking carefully just now. I will pay attention to it in the future. Violet couldn't help but wanted to have a fit, but at this time, Vivi directly persuaded her. Then he walked to the king, who turned to him with a smile, bowed deeply to him, and apologized sincerely. What a mature child. It was obviously not my fault at all, but in this situation, I persisted completely. The tutor is really great. It's a pity that this king is really annoying. He is such a big man, but he doesn't take out his anger on a child. HMPH. It's good to know, this time. Poof. EHXN. But just when he was about to accept the apology and prepare to pretend to leave, he suddenly felt like he was kicked hard in the face, and his whole body flew out completely, directly hitting the outside window. It broke into pieces, and then his fat body fell directly outside. You know, this is on the 4th floor. Who did it? 0.6. Both princesses looked behind themselves hurriedly, fearing that their own guards had taken action. But they all saw their confused faces, but in the middle, there was suddenly a figure. I'm sorry, I accidentally slipped my foot, but I guess no one will die. What are you doing? Someone will die. Vivi couldn't help but suddenly complained at this moment, and then looked nervously at the very handsome young man in front of her. It's already like this, why can't people die? Well, if you die, just die. It would be a disaster for such a person to be a king. KR. Sister, brother-in-law? Brother-in-law? This word should not be used indiscriminately, right? How many brothers-in-law does Sister Violet have? Or is this person the legendary Qinglong King? 23 The Dragon King made the lowly princess cry. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Hey, Violet, it's been a long time since I saw you, and you've grown so big. After seeing Violet, the new man also smiled and stretched out his hand, put it on her head and touched her, as if he were a child. No, brother-in-law, you kicked that person down just now. That person should be the king of the Drum Kingdom. Violet didn't seem to resist at first, but actually looked a little happy. But he quickly reacted, then slapped his hand away, shouted angrily, and angrily patted his foot that was still in the air. At least it should be collected quickly, people will think it is a misunderstanding. How to pretend now? I know, that's why I played, to help his father teach this useless son a lesson. The former Drum King was still very good, but now this one is rubbish. XN. After hearing these words, the expressions of everyone present became even weirder. Isn't this a bit too direct to say? Although it does seem to be the truth, except for him, probably no one would dare to say it directly. However, this situation is very problematic now. Let's not talk about whether the person is really alive or not. Just the fact that his guards are watching here is very problematic. Are you right, Dalton? Oh, Lord Ivan, please don't make it difficult for me. Even so, he is our new king and will still lead us in the future. But what was surprising was that the tall guard did not attack the man angrily. Instead, he sighed helplessly and said with a wry smile. Moreover, the tone of voice seemed to be quite familiar, and there was no tense atmosphere. It is clear that the king of his country has been kicked out, and his life or death is still uncertain. Isn't he a little too calm as a guard like this? But in fact, everyone knows that even Vivi now knows that this is because of the identity of the man in front of her. Dragon King, Ivan Los Astoria. Why it suddenly appeared in this place is really surprising. But what makes Vivi even more speechless is that he actually dared to directly kick out the king of a country. This is equivalent to murder. Is it because others can't see it? No, judging from his tone just now and the feeling he gave people, it seemed that he would do this even in front of other people. So, is this what the Heavenly Dragon King is like? She originally thought he would be an unsmiling middle-aged uncle. Looking at the handsome young man in front of her, Vivi felt that her perception seemed to have changed dramatically. There is no hope for him. You should be the king. If you put the Drum Kingdom in the hands of such people, it will be destroyed sooner or later. Moreover, what he said did not leave anyone with any sympathy at all. Although, it really makes sense, if a country is left to that kind of people, it will really be destroyed sooner or later. No matter what, I have been favored by the previous king, and that's why I am what I am today. I have to persevere. Oh, I'm too lazy to talk about you, you are really a cow. Forget it, Yaka, Belle, it's been a long time since we last seen you, did you bring your country's little princess here this time? Advertisement. It happened that at this time, a group of people began to walk out of the conference hall just now. Ivan feels that there seems to be something wrong with this wave. This person, when he first saw her, pinched her cheek just like he does now. DB. Ahem, don't cry, I'll be misunderstood later. What happened here? It was so loud just now. Brother-in-law's old habit has happened again. When he sees a cute little girl, he wants to tease her. However, now that she also knows the identity of this person, naturally she does not dare to make a mistake. The young man smiled and continued to touch Vivi's face, and then showed a gentle smile that was completely different from the previous casual attitude, and his voice was also very gentle. Why does this voice feel so familiar? Vivi. But like Dalton, the two of them answered naturally. Vivi, who was still filled with dissatisfaction, sadness and discomfort, saw this face, and for some reason, her eyes suddenly started to get wet, and her tears couldn't stop flowing down. It's hard to believe that a person who chats and laughs with his guards like this could actually be the Heavenly Dragon King who stands at the top of the world. Unlike the other men who could only pretend that nothing happened and remained in awkward silence after seeing this scene, Violet rolled her eyes at him angrily at this time, with obvious disdain in her eyes. This man just kicked his king away with one kick. She didn't want to be taught a lesson too. How could this man touch the lady's face so casually? It doesn't matter, she won't die anyway, but this little girl is quite cute, completely different from Cobra's serious old boy. What are you talking about? You made me sound so weird. Little girls of this age are very sensitive to this kind of thing. How can you pinch other people's faces so easily? Ooh, That's true. You did the same to me back then. Now 10 years have passed and you are still doing this to little girls. There is no change at all. Yes, this is our Princess Vivi, Master Ivan, but at this time, the other party suddenly did something that she could not imagine. Yes, and there seems to be a child crying. Won't you take care of the Drum King's affairs first? He actually knows Yaka and Belle. Even she knows that although these two people are the strongest warriors in their kingdom, they should not have much fame in the world, right? As a princess, Vivi naturally wanted to resist. What's the problem? This child looks very cute, and he is so well behaved and sensible. I saw it just now. You really worked hard not to cry in that situation. Me. Seeing this group of kings, they were all looking at him blankly, while he himself kept squatting in front of the crying little girl. Looking at the man in front of her who squatted down and then stretched out his hand to gently touch her cheek, Vivi couldn't help but froze in place and looked at him stupidly. Cries began to be heard clearly, which made the man who was touching her face couldn't help but become a little nervous. 24 The Dragon King with special quirks. Please subscribe. Advertisement. You actually bully a child. You are really a scumbag king. I thought he had problems before. He is indeed a narrow-minded guy. It is really a failure to let this kind of person be in charge of the country. Looking at the confused man not far away in front of them, the kings present all had expressions of disdain on their faces, and then began to discuss various topics in low voices. She said it loudly, fearing that the man in front of her would hear her, which would be bad. But I said it softly, and I felt uncomfortable and unsatisfied. So it's best if he can hear it without knowing who said it. Well, actually it shouldn't be a big problem if it was seen. Who on earth kicked me off just now? For a king of a small country like him, no one would take him too seriously. When they heard about the middle-aged man in front of them who was as fat as a hippopotamus and had a wide chin, everyone showed some disgust. In fact, these people all know that this person is only 19 years old this year. But he looks too old, even older than his father, so he looks like a middle-aged man. But the things he did were really careful enough. It was just a few quarrels with Cobra, but to actually bully an 8-year-old girl was really despising. Now, their meeting has been suspended and is in the period of rest. Well, the argument has gone too far just now, so it's best to pause now. And the most important person has already arrived. Lord Ivan, the negotiation proposals put forward by various countries are already here. Do you see any problems here? Fortunately, I looked at it and there are no outrageous requirements. They are all relatively positive. Just give them a try. Anyway, the total amount is not a lot. Yes. X5 well done. Passed. After hearing the casual answer from someone on the side and the somewhat helpless response from the 5 old men, most of the kings present could not help but show excitement. Why do they have to come here so diligently? Of course it's because you can take it if you have money. No one will complain about the lack of money. Over the years, the power of pirates has weakened a lot, resulting in a lot less war between their countries, and they have begun to develop some peaceful industries as much as possible. In this matter, financial assistance is naturally needed. In the past, I couldn't help but borrow money, and there were many times when I couldn't borrow money even if I wanted to. But the current Tianlong King is really too generous a person. As long as there are normal investment operations, he will really lend money. It is said that a lot of celestial dragons' money was deducted from him. And there are also many celestial dragons who listen to him and give him money to earn interest and make loans. Avoid those idle celestial dragons who save so much money every day but never use it at all. Of course, if a king takes his money and doesn't do anything serious, it will be over. Advertisement. It's not unheard of to kill their king directly and then replace him with someone else. Well, it's that straightforward. But the citizens of each country were not angry, but strongly supported the killing of that scumbag king. The people who come to borrow money now are all serious people who want to carry out projects, and there is no random thing. If you are not sure, no one dares to put their head in front of this heavenly dragon king and make a joke. Okay, if you have nothing special to do, don't look for me. Violet, let's go. Okay. Brother-in-law, come on. Vivi, let's go together. Can I come along too? Of course, anyway, there is nothing to do here now? At this time, the Heavenly Dragon King, who had only read the draft for about 5 minutes and had already made up his mind, had already left with the lovely princesses as usual. Well, the previous misunderstanding has naturally been explained clearly a long time ago. In fact, everyone is not a fool. With such a big window broken, no one would think that the majestic Dragon King would bully a little girl. After about 3 seconds of silence, he explained calmly, and others also answered calmly. The little princess also quickly wiped away her tears, and then said that she just fell to the ground accidentally, so she cried in pain. But the Heavenly Dragon King also explained the reason, saying that, it was the new Drum King who was stupid and bumped into her on purpose, so I didn't like it and kicked him off. Such a strong reason, I don't even know how to refute it. Of course, that Wapple is indeed outrageous. It was originally a drum kingdom. The original king was quite enlightened. Many countries needed his medical skills. Every year, a steady stream of people went there to study, and there were also specialized doctors who held medical academic conferences and the like. Yes, very professional. But in the year after he took over, some bad rumors seemed to have spread, saying that he was very tyrannical and cruel. Now it is normal to be taught a lesson by the Dragon King. Father, can I follow you? At this time, Vivi also asked her father Cobra nervously. Of course she wanted to go. After coming here, she has never been to any place at all. Now this, brother Tianlong King, said that he can take her to see it, so of course she is very interested. Okay, but be careful not to run too fast, Fortunately, she quickly gained the support of Cobra, and then was pulled along by Violet, preparing to leave with Ivan, making some of the surrounding kings and princesses a little envious and jealous. Alas, even though my Qian Hao Jiao daughter is not bad, why'd I just fall in love with this little girl from Alabasta? Could it be said that the Dragon King has some special preferences? Well, there are indeed many young princesses here, all dressed up and ogling Ivan all the time. After all, everyone wants to be the second, Scarlet, so as long as they are of the right age, they are basically willing to take the initiative. It's a pity that falling flowers are intentional and flowing water is ruthless, so Ivan doesn't have much interest. Hey, you kid, it was you who kicked me unconscious just now, right? Now you want to run away? Meow N. But just when Ivan and others were about to leave, an angry voice suddenly came from not far away. When hearing this voice, everyone present could not help but feel a subtle atmosphere. This idiot, don't you know who he is? 25 Loyal Kazuki Odin, please subscribe. Advertisement. After hearing this sentence, everyone present knew that something interesting was about to happen. You know, even though Ivan seemed a little scary when he first appeared, his temper was actually quite good among the kings. The king usually has some tricks and has usually killed many people. But Ivan actually killed very few people. For a man who stood at the pinnacle of power in the world, he was really soft-hearted. After so many years, everyone has actually figured out Ivan's character, and the worry at the beginning has turned into extremely lucky now. Isn't it so lucky to have a truly kind king? However, if someone dares to take the initiative to stir up trouble, then this king will definitely not be merciful. Just like it is now. Then what do you want to do? Looking at the fat hippopotamus in front of him, Ivan asked lightly, as if he was stating something. But those who are familiar with him will know that as soon as this tone comes out, the mood of the Heavenly Dragon King has changed. Nonsense. Lousy is the king of the Drum Kingdom. If you dare to attack me, of course you must apologize to me. Didn't I tell you to apologize? 240 accidentally slipped? Did your foot accidentally slip and you kicked the person out of the closed window on the 4th floor? Of course, although everyone said they had a lot of things they wanted to complain about, no one dared to say it out. With a personality like yours, Wapple, who will speak up for you, and you want to offend someone who can't afford to offend. Damn. Are you provoking me? Dalton, why haven't you killed him yet? Wapple was also extremely angry at this time, and then roared loudly at Dalton, the strong man beside him. If I had known better, I would have brought Chromamon and Jace here with me, so I wouldn't be as stupid as him. After standing here for so long, he didn't know what to do at all. He had taken down his attacker earlier, and now he was still there without any movement at 10 o'clock. Lord Wapple, we did make some mistakes before, so please don't continue to mess around. It will only make things more troublesome. Trash. What did you say? Forget it, let Lousy do it himself. Wapple was very dissatisfied with Dalton's cowardly behavior. Apparently he believed that Dalton did not dare to do anything in front of so many people. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, now he wants to personally deal with this kid. So as soon as his thoughts changed, he immediately turned his mouth into a cannon barrel, and then began to prepare for the bombardment. After the surrounding kings saw this scene, they couldn't help but retreat nervously. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. Obviously, after reaching a certain level of stupidity, it will become a little scary. Unexpectedly, he didn't know the other party's identity at all, so he started to take action directly. People like this don't know who they will offend in the future, and they may cheat their own country at any time. Lien Yifan himself was a little speechless after seeing this scene. This ability is actually really good. If it can be used properly, it may be the same as the bullet in the theatrical version. It's a pity that the owner of this fruit is a fool. Instead of developing such a good thing, it becomes so worthless. Advertisement, however, facing the scene of being bombed in front of him, Ivan had no intention of avoiding or defending. Instead, he just watched silently as he continued to gather the shells until he actually blasted them. A sign of avoidance. But at this moment, a figure suddenly dodged and appeared in front of Ivan. Holding a long sword, he split the shell into two and cut it open. Boom. X2. The sound of two bombings and an explosion suddenly occurred in midair behind, which frightened everyone present. Fortunately, there was no one behind, otherwise, someone might have been accidentally injured this time. But in fact, it is impossible to hurt anyone. After all, the person who draws the sword has very strong control and cannot even do this. Well done, Odin. Ivan was naturally not surprised at all, but silently said something to the man in front of him. Thank you for the compliment, Lord Ivan. At this level, it is just a show of shame in front of Lord Ivan, but in the face of such stupid behavior, there is really no need for Lord Ivan to take action personally. This middle-aged man with a round head and a tall build also answered with a hearty smile on his face. But from his words, it can be seen that he is loyal to Ivan. But in fact, he is a real king, to be precise, the general. The supreme leader of the Wano Kuni, named Kazuki Odin. 6 years ago, this previously closed country participated in the World Summit for the first time. However, among the Wano Kuni who have all the soldiers, the selected general is naturally the most powerful one, so it is not surprising that he was able to do this easily just now. Fortunately, there are no other countries around their country, so there is no need to worry about what they will do. It is completely different from a certain parallel world. However, this general was very loyal to the Heavenly Dragon King and had always been completely obedient to his orders. Well, yes, loyalty. Now that Wano Kuni has been established, many curious people have visited it. It has unique culture and customs, and it does have a certain charm. But the most unforgettable thing is that Wano Kuni possesses powerful force. From top to bottom, he highly respects the Heavenly Dragon King and thinks that he is the real king. Of course, it is said that 10 years ago, the Celestial Dragon King personally went out to drive Kaido, one of the current 4 emperors, out of Wano Kuni, and killed the previous general, becoming their hero. Damn it. Who are you? Don't hinder lousy, poof. Wapol was naturally very angry when he saw that his attack was blocked. But just when he wanted to continue attacking, he was suddenly hit hard on the head, and then his whole body fell into the ground. Behind him, he saw 2 huge bodies, staring at him. But if you look closely, they don't look purely human. Damn cat, you are too cruel. Stupid dog, if you do it yourself, you won't be any better than me. One cat and one dog spoke human words, which made people a little confused. But in fact, these 2 are also kings of the same country. Zo, the 2 legendary kings of the Rough Fur Tribe, Neko Viper and Duke Inuarashi. 26 Vivi. Thank you Uncle Ivan, please subscribe, advertisement. If it were me, I would still make sure he didn't fall asleep. I can do that too. Just beat him up and he'll wake up. Your way will only make things more troublesome. Just pour a basin of hot water on him. XN your method doesn't seem to be much better, does it? After hearing what the giant, dog, man said, everyone present couldn't help but secretly complain in their hearts. But in fact, the cat on the other side was the same, very rude. Many people have heard of the name of the Fur Tribe. They are a race that lives on the back of a giant elephant and is almost isolated from the people on the continent below. The Fur Tribe has very strong power. The old, weak, women and children are all soldiers. It's more exaggerated than the warriors of Wano Kuni. Even babies have basic self-defense skills. And they seem to be very xenophobic and hate humans, so they have always been isolated from the world. This is actually fake. They like humans very much, or rather like them quite a lot. Last time, they came here with some other Fur Tribe members, all of whom were very friendly. And there is a reason for doing this time. Stop it, you two. You've gone too far, we're going to quarrel again. Yes, sir. X2 After hearing what Odin said, the cat and the dog also responded honestly and stopped quarreling. After all, they were all Odin's retainers and members of the 9 red scabbards that Ivan had saved. Lord Ivan, how do you deal with this man? But at this time, Odin, who looked a little serious just now, said something that made everyone feel a little weird. It feels weird to say this to the king of a country. But in fact, it is true. If the Dragon King really wants to kill Wapol directly because he was offended, it is not impossible. Of course, he would not do such a thing directly before, and Ivan is not such an irrational person. But he would choose to let someone take the king back, and then let them choose a new king in front of all the citizens. But every time they were asked to choose, they all agreed to change a monarch. After all, a person who can do such a ridiculous thing in such an occasion cannot be a good king, and his subjects will certainly hate him even more. The same is true for Wapol. Keeping him will also be a disaster. Of course, the people of this country are the ones who are truly qualified to make the choice. Whatever, just take him back. Dalton, do you really not want to consider my previous proposal? At this time, Ivan was too lazy to continue to entangle with Wapol, but looked at Dalton, who was tangled on the side, and asked again. The people around felt a little surprised, not knowing what the problem was. Sorry, Tianlong King, I still think that I hope to wait and see. After all, he is still our king. However, at this time, Dalton still shook his head and rejected Ivan's words, which made everyone feel even more surprised. A few people knew who he was, that he was a guard of the previous king, but there were many more people who didn't know who he was at all. But the problem was that he dared to reject Tianlong King's words in person. Advertisement. This courage is really great. Then do whatever you want. I'm afraid it will be too late by then. After all, with this guy's brains, I think he will destroy the Drum Kingdom soon. XN. After saying this, Ivan turned and left with several people around him. Only a confused look on the face of everyone was left, and Dalton also had a complex expression on his face, but he still didn't say anything. Instead, he silently bowed to everyone present, then picked up Waldo and carried him on his back, gone back. Anyway, it is impossible to talk about anything here now, and it seems that there is no big problem in the first place. I just hope that he can make a stable transition for a few years. If I try hard to persuade him, I should still be able to make him change. It's a pity that he doesn't know that temperament is hard to change. He still thinks too well of human nature. In the future life, he will extremely regret that he failed to listen to the words of this heavenly dragon king and simply replace him. It's a pity that there is no regret medicine in the world. Is it okay to just leave like that? Brother-in-law, there is still something to do over there, right? After walking for a while and leaving the sight of the group of kings, Violet couldn't help but ask curiously. Please give me flowers 0. Of course, even though it was an afterthought, it was indeed only now that I had the courage to speak. After all, the atmosphere just now was so serious that she was embarrassed to speak. It doesn't matter, it's just a group of people asking for money. They will solve the rest of the problems themselves. Naturally, Ivan didn't take those kings seriously at all, and answered simply. Originally, he didn't have anything to say to them. He just came over to show his face and make his presence felt. In fact, this is not because of his own kindness, but because he really has too much money and no place to use it. Since the summoning system was shut down, he didn't know where he was going to use the money, so he just loaned it out. 0. And as the king of the world, the amount of money he earns every day is also incredible. Fortunately, these kings basically did real things, and the money they lent actually became real things, and most of them were returned. If you haven't come back yet, the king has basically changed. So his current reputation is indeed pretty good. To be honest, he himself has never thought about doing so many things, just moving his hands, signing something, etc. As for being deified like that. Although, he does know that only he is qualified to do this, and others are not qualified and will not do it. Haha, brother-in-law is still so lazy, it will ruin your image in the minds of others. At least there is a cute little sister here. Violet also laughed, then put her hands behind her back and looked at Vivi slightly jokingly. This little girl has been staring at her brother-in-law since just now, and then she quietly hides away. Her little face is also quite red. It seems that she is also a little girl. This is normal. How many young girls around the world now treat the Dragon King as their idol? I've always been like this. It's nothing. Speaking of which, Vivi, were you okay just now? No, it's okay. Thank you, Uncle Ivan, Tet. He has never been called like this before. 27 The kind-hearted, soft-hearted and romantic king, please subscribe. Advertisement, peeved, ha ha ha, it's time for brother-in-law to be called uncle now. Unlike Ivan, who was a little depressed, Violet on the side immediately started laughing with her belly in her hands after hearing this title. She laughed so happily that her body started to twitch. Yes, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, brother Ivan, brother. Seeing Violet's reaction, Vivi suddenly suppressed her blush, then quickly waved her hands and called out the latter title with a blushing face, but her voice was obviously much softer. In fact, there is no big problem whether you call me uncle or brother. Ivan looks like he is 24 or 5 years old now, but in terms of temperament, he does not look like a mature middle-aged man, more like a young man who has just started working. It's just that Wei, 570, Wei feels a little shy to be called like that. It's embarrassing to just call someone brother or something. Moreover, both the other party and her father were able to communicate normally. When they were chatting just now, they were very relaxed, as if they were peers. And I always feel that calling me uncle would be more acceptable and easier to say. It's okay. If you like, you can call me uncle. My daughters are about the same age as you anyway, so it's okay to call them uncle. Of course, Ivan didn't bother with this little thing. Instead, he smiled and stretched out his hand, gently caressing the little girl's head again. He's not so petty, he's just a little lowly, and it doesn't matter if he's called uncle or brother. And the title, Uncle Ivan, actually sounds quite interesting. People always have to learn to accept growth, although, his appearance stopped at this level. Not just him, but his wives too. Although you can decide according to your own preferences, Ivan and the others basically set their grade at around 25 years old and do not want to go up any further. Well, after so many years, it is naturally very easy to buy some props to increase lifespan. Anyway, he has a lot of money, so he keeps it. Of course, there are also ones that are lighter. For example, Shinobu and Kanae, it was enough to stay around 20 years old and not continue to change. Even though he looks young now, in more than 10 years, it will actually be normal even if he is called Grandpa. Although he doesn't really want to see Rebecca and the others grow up and get married, there will eventually come a day. As a father, he will eventually face such a day. Although, their lifespan is also very long now, extending to more than 500 years, so there should be no need to worry about those things so early. Then, can I continue to call you Uncle Yi, Ivan? Haha, just call me whatever you want. So Uncle Ivan, how did you do it before you kicked that big bad guy away? It's so awesome. Maybe she felt that Ivan's smile was sincere, so Vivi was no longer as nervous as before. Instead, she started to get a little excited and asked, letting go. What does the legend mean? How am I in the legend? But as time went by, facts proved everything. Advertisement. He doesn't know much about these things, and he doesn't really care about them. Uncle Ivan, you have done a lot of good things and you are a very kind-hearted, soft-hearted and powerful king. Of course, I still cried because of Tianlong King's words later. But to be honest, he himself didn't quite know what his image was like in the eyes of ordinary people. Now, the girl's nature has been restored, which is actually quite good. But yes, even if he didn't ask for it himself, no newspaper would dare to publish negative news about him. At most, it would just be some speculation from the 8 trigrams. The era of great pirates was originally opened by Pirate King Roger. Although pirates are still prosperous, due to the strength of the countries and the powerful attack of marine power, the people of each country are generally not oppressed too much. After all, good world conquest is originally to protect the world in the name of justice. At first, the feedback was relatively negative. It's indeed a pretty positive report. But some people just like to interrupt at times like this. And he himself didn't do anything problematic. Ahem, don't talk about such things to children casually. Just playing like that, in that small role, I can still solve it easily. After hearing Violet's teasing, Ivan reached out and knocked a chestnut on her head, and then replied calmly, trying to ignore Vivi's red cheeks. Not only did the Celestial Dragon King not abuse his power, but he restrained the Celestial Dragons, abolished slavery, reduced wars, suppressed pirates, and gave various countries in need various financial aid. Then are you really as powerful as the legend says? Yes, and he is also a romantic king. I don't know how many women change around me every day. Of course, the news will definitely not dare to write any negative news about him. As a result, a heavenly dragon king suddenly appeared and sat on everyone's head, which was really very dissatisfying. Is he an omnipotent great saint, or is he a demon king who has the power to do whatever he wants? He really doesn't know what folk rumors he has. Although there are many in the newspapers have always reported more positive news about him. It is estimated that after these kings return this time, the reports will be full of praise again. This aspect is indeed often brought up, and not only because of his own wishes, but also for some inexplicable reasons, women he doesn't even know are rumored to have something to do with him. Hearing this, Ivan couldn't help but smile. However, after she changed like this, the guards around her couldn't help but smile knowingly. In fact, when they saw Her Royal Highness the Princess holding back from crying after going through those things before, they were all somewhat impressed. It can be said that 1.7 has really improved a lot. But he was still a little interested in Vivi's eyes. She was originally a lively girl and very curious. She had been curious about the Heavenly Dragon King from the beginning. It can be said that the entire world is really governed as a country, and it is governed very well, much better than before. 28 Come take a shower together next time? Please subscribe. Advertisement Mariejoy, the residence of the Heavenly Dragon King, at the entrance of the Astoria family. Lord Ivan, welcome back, XN. Returning to the familiar door of his home, he saw the group of delicate maids who had already lined up and stood neatly at the door, bowing deeply to him. Ivan also nodded, and then said to the 2 girls next to him. Anyway, it's still some time before their meeting ends. How about taking a rest here? Well, when I come here, it's just like my own home. The immature Vivi was a little restrained in her answer, but Violet on the side smiled and answered easily, and walked directly in. Princess Violet, welcome back. The surrounding maids also bowed to her, and the beautiful maid with long blue hair who took the lead also smiled and welcomed her. Pasilia, is my sister in there? No, Madam is now with Madam Shirley, and Madam Ninja is spending the night together. Everyone is gathered together. If I had known, I would have gone there directly. After getting this answer, Violet curled her lips slightly depressed and said in trouble. She and her sister had not seen each other for a year, and the only time they had seen each other was during the Chinese New Year, when her brother-in-law and the others brought Rebecca to their Dressrosa for a few days. Now that she came back, she naturally wanted to see her dear sister and lovely niece. As a result, I'm out now. I have no choice. Shinobu is about to give birth in about 2 months, so I might as well stay there together every day. Even Kanae and Hancock went there. No wonder I said I haven't seen them. After hearing Ivan's explanation, Violet also laughed and looked around. Normally, those ladies would follow their brother-in-law every step of the way. No wonder none of them could be seen this time. Yes, I just go and take a look every day. If I stay there for a long time, I will be disliked. Now I can only stay here alone. Ivan also waved his hands a little dumbfounded, looking a little helpless. He was supposed to be surrounded by flowers, but now there is no one left in the house. Even Kanae said, I won't disturb you and you were busy early this morning and then ran away, which made him very nervous. Came here for a meeting out of boredom. Originally, he should have delayed going until the middle of the meeting, waiting for them to finish arguing. Of course, the current results are also good, and there won't be any big impact. Well, Princess Rebecca is still inside. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I want to go take a look. But at this time, the blue-haired maid at the door continued to explain, and then Violet showed a bright smile on her face and immediately trotted inside. Rebecca. Well, Uncle Ivan, is she your daughter? Yes, she is also Sister Violet's daughter. She is 6 years old this year. I think you and her should become good friends. Vivi nodded happily, and then followed Ivan beside her, preparing to enter the back room. Throughout the whole process, the group of maids kept bowing silently and did not ask about the identities of Vivi and the 2 guards behind her. This is not what they need to worry about, they just need to understand that the owner brought it back. By the way, Pasilia, weren't you feeling unwell the past few days? You're back today. Yes, Master Ivan, I think I have fully recovered and it will not affect my work. Advertisement. But at this time, when he walked to the blue-haired maid, Ivan suddenly asked curiously and bowed to her. She is the one standing in the middle among all the maids, and she is also the head maid of this group of maids. That is, the girl who was bought with Hancock and the other 3 sisters. Ivan didn't pay much attention to it at first, but if he took a closer look, he actually felt quite similar to the dancer who was auctioned in the animation, and she was just about the same age. Could it be that she is actually the mother of the girl in the original work? How did she escape after that, and how did her daughter? Well, it's really hard to say these things. However, she is indeed continuing to work at his house now, and she works very hard and has excellent work ability, so Ivan is also optimistic about her. Well, that's fine if it doesn't affect you. Don't force yourself. You've been with me for 10 years anyway. You need to take care of your health. Yes, so before leaving, Ivan also gave one more warning. The other party's sweet voice was also full of excitement, and he responded much louder than usual. The emotion contained in it also made Ivan take another look at her. After seeing the red look on her face, he was silent for a moment, then turned around and went in. Her thoughts are actually quite obvious. And this year, she is already 27 years old, although she is in the age group with the greatest charm as a woman. But there is no doubt that in a few years, she will enter middle age. But there are actually too many girls of this type around him. There are nearly 100 young and beautiful maids in the whole family, and almost none of them has a male partner. It's not that they don't have time or can't find it. On the contrary, everyone has weekends and holidays, and girls who can work here have a very special status. People like Albedo and the others could be considered maids, but even the celestial dragons did not dare to provoke them, and they always spoke to them respectfully. And someone like Basilia must have a much lower status. But if you go out, except for the celestial dragons, the remaining nobles will respect them when they see them. But none of them were looking for a partner. Instead, they kept working diligently on 950, and they always looked at him with obvious longing. Next time you take a shower, should you ask them to come over and help? Master. You are finally back, But at this moment, an excited female voice suddenly came from the direction of the back room, which made Ivan stunned for a moment, and then subconsciously turned away a little. And the next moment, a beautiful figure suddenly emerged from it, and then she kept her arms hugging something, but ended up flying away, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, Ivan caught her hand in advance. After noticing this, the mature and beautiful woman showed a happier look on her face, and she leaned directly into Ivan's arms. Master, I haven't seen you for a long time, Saife. I just said that I couldn't see you in the previous meeting. You came directly to my house. Breathing the air with those men in a room would make me feel extremely uncomfortable. Of course it is best here. After all, you are still an acting queen. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him who was wearing a conservative cheongsam, but still couldn't hide her plump figure, with long pink hair covering her face with gauze, Ivan couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. 29 My sister-in-law is jealous, please subscribe, advertisement. Rebecca, long time no see, have you thought about me? Aunt Violet, don't be like this, no, I haven't seen you for a long time, let me stick with you for a while, by the way, who is this child? Her name is Clar, she is my personal maid, hello. I see, she is also a very cute child, come together and let your sister hold her. Hearing these words from the beautiful woman with slightly dark skin in front of her, and feeling her waist being hugged and her cheek being rubbed. Clar, who was wearing this maid outfit, also showed a little depression on her face at this time, and then looked at Rebecca with a slightly stiff smile. But when she saw that she was also helpless, Clar could only choose to keep smiling. Alas, as a maid, am I qualified to be hugged by a princess like this? Of course, it doesn't matter what you think, what matters is that Violet wants to do this. Soon after she entered the inner hall, she saw her little niece whom she hadn't seen for a long time. Of course, she was very excited. As for this personal maid, well, there is no need to explain in detail. Looking at her, she can probably guess what's going on. Rebecca didn't have a playmate of the same age before, and now she naturally doesn't need a personal maid. The biggest possibility is that she was bought. Seeing that the girl didn't look mature enough for her age when she smiled, she knew what happened. Alas, although her brother-in-law has withdrawn and abolished slavery, similar things still exist and can't be stopped. Of course, the current situation is much better than before. The child doesn't seem to have any wounds on his body. It seems that he was rescued in time. Her brother-in-law is still as kind-hearted as ever and always goes to that place to take a look. She knows that her brother-in-law is a person who doesn't like to talk about his feelings, except for those close to him. He behaves quite coldly. But in fact, he is really gentle in his heart. He said he was casual, but in fact, he was still doing some good things. If he really wanted to find a woman, he could find one anywhere, and Quan Shiji couldn't count how many women would take the initiative to throw themselves at him. Now it is even more so. But in this situation, he was surprisingly very persistent. Aunt Violet is like this, by the way, where is Dad? Brother-in-law, she is. Look, I knew it was like this. Originally, she wanted to explain, but soon, Violet also found that she didn't need to explain, and smiled and moved her chin and gestured. The two little guys soon smiled and looked over. However, what made them a little depressed was that at this time, although there was indeed the figure they wanted to see at the door. But on the side, there was a tall pink-haired woman hugging him, looking quite intimate. If it was just like this, they could understand it, because they knew this woman. Not long after someone left, she came directly to their house and said she was waiting for someone to come back. And when she saw Violet coming in just now, she also went out directly. This is the acting queen of Hancock's island, named Sephi, the previous queen who was defeated by Hancock. Advertisement: the purpose of coming here is probably to participate in the World Summit. Ahaha, our fathers have a very good relationship, but the distance is quite far. We are in the first half of the Grand Line. But now, since this girl was brought back by her father, she must be fine. I've never seen her before. Is this the girl my father bought from? And this scene, looking at Ivan from the side, was quite harmonious. Manos. I just met her at the World Summit. Violet liked her very much before, so I brought her here to chat. Rebecca, Vivi, and Violet, but in fact, everyone knows that she has only one purpose for coming here, and that is to meet Ivan. My name is Nefeltari Vivi, and I am the Princess of Alabasta. Hello, Rebecca and Clar. Vivi was a little embarrassed at first, but quickly came to her senses, and then said hello with a smile. And the eyes of the two people began to look at each other, and inexplicable sparks began to appear. What really makes people confused is, it always feels quite similar to the World Summit scene in the anime. But at this time, the woman hugging him put her mouth to his ear and spoke in a charming voice, which made him couldn't help but feel a little moved. Princesses of the same age group. Maybe it's because they are all children, so they chat easily now, and they all gather together happily, with bright smiles on their faces. Who is this girl? The only difference is that they are now on his side, and on the side of supporting the pirates. Yeah, but there's nothing I can do about it. It only happens once every 2 years. It used to happen only once every 4 years. Master, they seem to be having a good time chatting. Let's go find a quieter place and have a good chat. Ahem, Miss Saife should pay attention to her sense of propriety and her reserve as a woman. The main reason is that her parents have always restricted her from playing with some children, especially those little girls who are also celestial dragons. Now that she appears with him on her arm, it's not that surprising. Alabasta? That country that has a good relationship with us Dressrosa, right? How come it seems like the heroines of those harem anime are jealous? No, it's not like that. Her skin is very white and tender, and her clothes are very good and clean. She must be pampered, and there are many people behind her who look like guards. It feels so far away, it would be troublesome to come there. After all, she is a princess, so she still has some composure, not to mention that Vivi also listened to Rebecca when she was on the road just now. But Violet suddenly hugged his other arm at this time, coughed lightly and complained. Rebecca blinked her eyes curiously, then tilted her cute little head and looked at the blue-haired girl beside someone. That's right, Dad, who is she? But after hearing Ivan's words, Rebecca's eyes immediately sparkled, and then she pulled Clara together, trotted up to Vivi, and said directly to her excitedly. The only people of her own age she usually have are her sisters and Kral, and no other friends. Oh, that's it, my name is Rebecca Astral, this is my maid Clar, what is your name? 30 Forbearance. If I don't come back, the palace will be taken away, please subscribe. Advertisement, Master, we haven't seen each other for a long time, you didn't take the initiative to come to our Nine Snakes Island to take a look. It's quite a long way there, and it's on the comm belt, so you drive very slowly. But you can obviously come to us at any time, don't you dislike us? Obviously if you want, all of us can become your women immediately. DB. After hearing these words, Ivan, who was still calm at first, couldn't help but a few drops of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. This person really dares to say anything. Miss Saife, you are also the acting queen of Nine Snakes after all. Don't you have a little bit of female consciousness? And it's enough for you to think so, don't drag other people into it, okay? But unlike Ivan who just complained in his heart, Violet on the side couldn't help but complained loudly. After she finished speaking, she quietly glanced at the three girls who were having fun not far away. After seeing that they had no reaction, Violet finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately these words were not heard by these children, otherwise, who knows what would have happened. Really, Miss Saife really doesn't know how to restrain herself. There are some things that you just know in your heart. 977, don't say it directly like this. Is there any problem? I have done a survey in China, and the consent rate is above 95. The rest are either too young or too old, so there is no problem, right? We all have this intention. That's why I say you have a problem there. Why are you two looking at your brother-in-law all the time? There are obviously so many men in the world, why don't you just go out and find a few and bring them back? Violet's heart was full of dissatisfaction with this Miss Saife and her so-called Nine Snakes Island. Indeed, Miss Saife is extremely beautiful, as good as any woman around her brother-in-law, and has a great figure. Of course, she is also very strong, otherwise she would not be able to become the queen of Nine Snakes Island. But the problem is that they are too obsessed with their brother-in-law. All the 9 snakes are girls, some are very beautiful, and some are slightly less so. But there are still many young and beautiful women, and they are all very strong. Logically speaking, if you want to go out and find a man, you can find him casually. However, there are obviously so many men in the world, but she and the women on Nine Snakes Island are all crazy about her brother-in-law and have been waiting for him. It is really confusing. Doing what? How can those stinky men outside compare with the master? That is an insult to the master. They have no qualifications at all. You obviously want to get close to the master, but you can't even tell this clearly? Who said I want to get close to my brother-in-law? Don't be so slanderous. Shin, you're back too, that doesn't matter. Anyway, the daughter born to me and my master will definitely be the strongest warrior of 9 snakes in the future. There is no need to have any doubts about this. This feeling is really weird, I always feel like something is missing. Oh no, but from time to time, he and Saife would quarrel. Then what are you doing now? Advertisement. After hearing this voice, Saife, whose face was originally full of excitement, now also showed a look of dissatisfaction, and then silently looked at a tall black-haired man who turned in from the door not far away, beautiful Shadow. When he was summoned before, they were with him every day, especially Albedo and Sia who never left his side. After hearing this answer, Ivan couldn't help but answer with a slightly wry smile. But this year I have been gone for so long. Violet actually has a good temper and can get along well with most people. Speaking of which, didn't the Seeds and Albedo come back with you? Seeing the two people preparing to quarrel, Ivan also spoke up in time to stop them. Okay, you two, what's there to argue about? I didn't say I wouldn't go to 9 snakes. It's just that I've been pregnant recently, so I've just stayed here. But just when Saife wanted to refute, an obviously mocking voice suddenly appeared from the side. It's true that they haven't been back for a long time, and he misses them. Not far behind her, familiar figures gradually appeared. Among her 2 sisters, there is a mature woman who looks very similar to Rebecca, and there are 2 other women who look very similar, but one of them has a big belly. This is for. Because I heard that if I don't come back, my house will be occupied by cute and strange girls. I wonder if there is any room in my room. Isn't it because I lost the bet, so I don't want to go back? If I really come back early, I'll be embarrassed to death or something, but I really want to come back, and I keep nagging about it, and I'm quite annoyed with them. But this time didn't come back with us. Okay. To be precise, that is the problem. You have the nerve to say that 9 snakes are the strongest just because you are a defeated general. What about the child I gave birth to, Mr. Ivan? He looks gentle, but in fact, he has a very bad temper. He might be as bad as Acids or others. Speaking of which, hey, even if a daughter is born, she is still a baby. She can't directly become a queen. Violet couldn't help but complain after hearing this extremely frank speech. Master, if you miss them, follow me back to 9 Snakes for a while, and then organize our wedding. By the way, we will hold the most grand wedding on 9 Snakes Island, and then give birth to the most beautiful and powerful daughter. Then let her inherit the throne and we can stay together forever. The black-haired Qianying complained angrily, and then walked over slowly. I originally thought that I would come with 9 Snakes' ship, and I wanted to meet them after a long absence, but in the end, I still didn't come. Ahem. Of course, TCH, you came back so quickly, didn't you already leave? She can basically quarrel with anyone. I heard that Lord Ivan's meeting was over, so I naturally came back, and it wasn't just me. Looking at this gentle woman with a big belly who was obviously pregnant, Ivan stood up with a smile, then walked to her and held her hand and waist. 31 Are these sisters all Uncle Ivan's princesses? Please subscribe. Advertisement, Mom. Well, Rebecca, how have you been these past few days? After gently hugging the immature girl who threw herself into his arms, Scarlet smiled softly and touched her head, and then asked. I'm living a good life. I eat well and go to bed on time, and I also met good friends. Really, that's great. You are Princess Vivi of Alabasta, right? After hearing this, she also looked at the blue-haired girl next to her daughter. She had already seen Crawl on the side. This child often came here with Rebecca and Ivan some time ago. He was a poor child who was bought. Fortunately, the current state has recovered very quickly, and I have not suffered too much pain. It seems that I have recovered from the original painful memory. But it was the first time I saw this girl, but I could still recognize her. Do you know me? I know your guard and have met him many times. Thank you for being friends with my child. Mom, why do you think it's so bad to be friends with me? Because my daughter is a naughty little girl. She will definitely cause trouble to others. No. Ha ha ha. The conversation between mother and daughter was carried out harmoniously, happily and easily, making people feel very warm and happy just by seeing it, making the two people around them smile knowingly. But what concerned them more was Ivan's side not far away. To be precise, it was the group of women surrounding him. A large group of extremely beautiful women gathered around Ivan, with laughter on their faces, looking very happy. I have to say that even in their eyes, they understand that this should be the ultimate enjoyment for a man. 15. There is also a pregnant woman here. The gentle woman with a gentle smile on her face and a big belly is smiling and stroking her belly. It seems that she will officially become a mother soon. Will they one day become so happy in the future? It will definitely happen. So, my lord is really good at playing. The baby will be born in 2 months, but in these days, he still wants to hook up with these cute children. 11. Even if the people around him except Forbearance are not his wives, not even his girlfriends, after hearing these words, they all felt the sincerity in his eyes. Of course, it's not all shyness, the main thing is excitement and touching. Ivan also started to raise his hands awkwardly, wanting to explain, but what he said began to seem a bit contradictory. Maybe he didn't think about how to defend himself. Violet did not go to her sister at this time, but sat not far away from Ivan, and then scolded him together, making Ivan even more embarrassed. Advertisement. Are these sisters all Uncle Ivan's princesses? Actually, it's almost the same. When my sister was pregnant, my brother-in-law seemed to hang out with other girls all day long. Alas, that's it for Hancock. For someone as big as Sci-Fi, can't he be calmer? So seeing this, he could only pretend not to see it. But Ivan can't refute it, since they are all personal experiencers. After all, she is also the previous queen of 9 Snakes. If she wants to hold this position, she must have some strength, and not everyone can be like Hancock, who can successfully succeed in 9 Snakes at the age of 10. It can be called invincible. Asterisk 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 asterisk. There is nothing to misunderstand, right? Master Ivan is like this. When he sees a cute girl, he will want to do it. Ahem, maybe it's because there are indeed too many girls around him. So many appeared at once, and he was a little confused. And now, Hancock and Sci-Fi were also holding his arms, and then staring at each other, obviously jealous, which naturally made the smile on Shinobu's face become brighter and brighter, and also made Ivan feel the pressure has also increased. When they met back then, they were actually around this age, isn't it the same now? You know, even though Saifei looks very young now, she is probably about 25 years old, similar to his age. Maybe it's because it's rare to see Ichiban look so embarrassed. After all, he is usually in a strong state and rarely gets ridiculed by the group. However, there are always few icings on the cake, but there are never any absence of things that add insult to injury. Well, I was also with your sister at the time. I watched her every day. I also tried my best to be nice to her. I'm not biased, right? Don't get me wrong, please bear with me. The temperature on everyone's faces also began to gradually rise. Ahem, how could it be possible? Ren, I already told you that you misunderstood. Of course, what they don't know is that what they are talking about here is not so pure happiness. Seeing that the two sisters were still making fun of him at this time, Ivan couldn't help but glared at them a little annoyed, but in exchange, they just stuck out their tongues naughtily at the same time. But at this time, Shinobu suddenly couldn't help laughing, and the girls on the side also pursed their lips slightly at this time, or looked away and laughed. Although time is slower, my efforts are always being rewarded, which is the best. Peeved, yes, I estimate that in another 10 years, no, it shouldn't take more than 10 years, this child will be conquered by Lord Ivan. It depends on one's strength. Ahem, Sonia, Mary, you two should stop making sarcastic remarks at this time. So, I am not biased towards you. I have always loved you the same, no matter now or in the future, it will be the same. On the contrary, Shinobu, who was now smiling, even had a little hash on his forehead. But in fact, he is almost 40 years old. But at this time, a childish voice emerged from the side, causing Ivan and others to fall into silence. Ivan, who seemed to be the happiest man in the world, was sweating on his forehead as he hurriedly explained. But seeing this scene, Ivan was not angry, but showed a smile on his face, and then walked straight to Shinobu, then pulled her up and sat on his lap. 32 Pangu City summoned, please subscribe, advertisement. It turns out that we are all princesses, and Uncle Ivan is really carefree. It's not bad. I don't like all women. Regarding the question from the little girl who suddenly appeared in front of him, Ivan did not deny it, but nodded. But in fact, none of them present are considered princess. If we really want to talk about it, Shinobu and Scarlet are probably the princesses. This should not be said to children, but denying it at this time is actually not a good thing. So after listening to Ivan's words, everyone had a look of joy on their faces. Yeah, I only like beautiful ones, right? At this time, Scarlet also came over, with Rebecca and Clara beside him. When she heard something being discussed here just now, she wanted to prevent her children from hearing it. After all, there are some things that, 910, shouldn't let children know. But Vivi noticed this and ran over. She happened to see someone's triumphant look, and she couldn't help it. That's right, after all, everyone has a love for beauty, and I also hope that my future children will be as cute as them. Now that it was revealed, Ivan did not continue to cover up, but smiled and nodded, sighing to everyone. Jean Nin and Scarlet both glanced at him slightly, while the remaining girls all had expectant and happy smiles on their faces. Of course, those children didn't quite understand. They only knew that they were probably praising themselves, so they smiled happily. Seriously, what are you talking about in front of a child? Speaking of which, Alabasta is a country that just entered the area not far from the Grand Line, right? It takes a long time to get here. After Ren rolled his eyes at Ivan angrily, he didn't dwell on the issue anymore. Instead, he looked at Vivi with a smile and whispered to her. The gentle look on her face made Vivi feel very close to her. Yes, but I think it's so interesting to come here this time. I've made new friends and seen a lot of new things. I'm very happy. Wei Wei also answered her thoughts with a smile, and looked at Rebecca and Clara beside them, and the three of them couldn't help but smile knowingly. The thoughts between the little girls are very simple, they became friends immediately, and their feelings are very sincere. Seeing their appearance, the people next to them were also very happy. You know, with the status of these children, it is actually quite difficult to find a sincere good friend. Many children at this age have already begun to be scheming and approach you with purpose. But Vivi, this girl, looks very clean and simple at first glance, which is really rare. Me too. Speaking of which, Vivi, is there anything else you want to see? I'll take you there. I don't really have anywhere I want to go, but there is a place I'm curious about. What is it? Well, is Uncle Ivan really very powerful? I heard that Uncle Ivan is the strongest person in the world. How powerful is he? When Vivi asked this question with a curious look on her face, everyone also smiled and looked at Ivan, with a little bit of weirdness in their eyes. Hearing this, they estimated that Ivan would start to show off in front of the little girl again, and then let the little girl say how powerful he is, and be fascinated by him, and then turn into a little fangirl, and then become a fangirl when she grows up, just like them. You can almost see the future development trend. Advertisement. Oh, really, even if Lord Ivan didn't take the initiative to do anything, it would probably still have the same ending. It's normal, it's not bad, but I haven't fought with anyone for a long time, maybe I've regressed a lot. At this time, Ivan continued to touch Vivi's little head with a smile, and said easily. To be honest, he felt that he might indeed be considered a pyramid level in this world. But the world is full of wonders, maybe when he changes to other worlds, he is nothing. After all, strength is endless. Who knows what unknown power there is? So Ivan thinks that the inexplicable title of the strongest in the world is still too exaggerated. Then who is better, Uncle Ivan, Belle and Gaka? Duh. Ahem. Lord Vivi, your statement is really too flattering for us. Our strength is absolutely different from Lord Ivan's. But when I heard this, Ivan and everyone else's expressions became a little weird, and they wanted to laugh. The two guards, Belle and Gaka, also looked embarrassed. They waved their hands and said with a wry smile. Although they had not seen Lord Ivan's full strength with their own eyes, they still knew how high the sky was and how deep the earth was. The world was much bigger than them. There was no comparison between them and Lord Ivan. Is it so exaggerated? Hey, Uncle Ivan, can you let me see it? Hearing this, Vivi couldn't help but widen her eyes full of curiosity. In her opinion, Belle and Gaka's abilities were already very powerful, and they were also the strongest warriors in their kingdom. Although Uncle Ivan was powerful, he should only be able to beat them, single-handedly, at most. If it was 2 against 1, they shouldn't win, but now, it seems that the patella is not like this. Okay, then I'll let you see it, Ivan smiled, and then prepared to stretch out his hand and release a lightning bolt or something like that to the open space in front of him to scare the little girl. Basically, this level should also allow her to understand a little bit. Sir Ivan, excuse me. But at this moment, a serious voice suddenly came out, and then a tall man in black armor appeared at the door, and then spoke silently. And the moment this man appeared, many people present, especially Shinobu and the others, frowned slightly. Because this person is dressed like a guard inside Pangu City. He usually won't come out, and the only reason for 2.7 to come out now is probably. I have something to ask you over there, please go over there. Oh, I see. Vivi, I'm sorry, I'll show you next time I have a chance, I'm a little busy now. And Ivan smiled and touched Vivi's little head again, then turned around, and the whole person instantly turned into a lightning and disappeared directly outside the door. The strong wind caused by leaving made the surrounding curtains fly up instantly. So fast, even Gaka and Belle, the strongest warriors of Alabasta, didn't see any of his movements clearly at this time, and Ivan had completely disappeared. And Vivi was also stunned in the same place, stupidly watching someone leaving, and the blue beam that quickly disappeared from sight, and her eyes began to become more complicated. Ah, it seems that I was hit, 33 Robin and she in the Holy Land, please subscribe. Advertisement Marijoy, the deepest part of Pangu City among the flowers. As the most mysterious place in the Holy Land, it has always been rarely visited. Of course, only a limited number of people can enter here, and even ordinary celestial dragons are not qualified to enter. But now, several people are already inside. Lord Ivan, long time no see. My lord, I haven't seen you for many days, I wish you good health. Very good, are you two doing well here recently? Looking at the two tall, gentle and elegant mature women in front of him, Ivan also smiled and stretched out his hand to greet them. These two people, one is a black-haired girl wearing a narrow hip skirt, and the other is a green-haired woman wearing a long kimono. They are all very pretty, and if you see them on the street, you can't help but take a few more glances, or even follow them. But at this time, they are all standing beside Ivan with a smile. It's good. After all, there's nothing to do 24 hours a day. I'm just responsible for the protection, there won't be any dangerous things here. If the Lord can come more often, it will be even better. The green-haired woman chuckled, and then gently pressed her body towards Ivan, making him feel a subtle change. Ahaha. Sorry, after all, I don't usually want to come to this place. I always feel that after coming here, I will encounter big things. I want to relax more recently, of course. Ivan did not resist this feeling. Instead, he smiled and stretched out his hand, hugged the green-haired woman's waist, and then put his nose closer and gently rubbed the green-haired woman's neck, making the other party feel a little itchy and shy, and a slight blush appeared on her face. Obviously, the two people's behavior is intimate enough, and they did it in front of the black-haired girl next to them, not just in private. Well, after all, they are also quite close, even. Speaking of which, Lord, how is Hiyori doing recently? That child hasn't come over recently. She is at Shiarli's place. She is said to be pulled to learn something like real noble princess manners. I feel that they have completely different styles, one is Western style and the other is Japanese style. It will be bad if they are incompatible. Neon style. What is that, Lord? Because he knew that the other person was not nearsighted, although she always liked reading, she always protected her eyes well. But Mrs. Shi is still here. It's none of my business. Do you want me to wait until you're done before I come? It seems like you're quite busy, group. It's just because of the special nature of her ability, she is often needed, so she was sent here as a guard. Well, she is a guard, but she is useless because the other party doesn't need her guard at all. When the other party saw it, she also chuckled. A little lower, and was patted. Sure enough, you stayed up late, and your dark circles are a bit heavy, go to bed early, Robin. Well, I'm here, Godmother, what do you want to talk to me about? Advertisement, I know, Lord Ivan, wait until you finish reading here, But just when the show was about to start, a voice suddenly came out, and someone immediately regained his composure. The two women on the side also quietly separated a little, as if nothing had happened. Then they all looked at the beautiful silver-haired woman who walked into the room from the door. But his face was still blushing as he accepted it, and he didn't really refuse, just like Robin. After hearing the other party's complaints, Ivan also coughed lightly, then changed the subject and said with a smile. Before she finished speaking, the black-haired girl was directly pulled over by someone, and then hugged her slender waist as well. X2 however, seeing the other person's relaxed look, Ivan frowned slightly, and then took off the other person's glasses. No, I was just flipping through it, there's nothing much to do, don't worry about it. Ahem. No need, we're fine, just tell us. Seeing that the other party had some obvious marks on the eye sockets after taking off her glasses, Ivan also reached out to touch her cheek, patted it gently, and then said something earnestly. The daughter is already several years old, about the same age as Rebecca. She, who was also implicated, was a little dissatisfied and helpless at this time. After all, the woman in front of him is also one of his wives. Ahem, nothing, but she is fine. She is very happy recently. You should relax too, she will be able to come back in a while. However, when he heard this, he turned the topic to the black-haired girl next to him. Ivan also looked over and saw her wearing glasses and quietly flipping through a book. These things are endless, so relax a little, Robin, take a good rest, let me see your eyes. I am actually fine here. I was busy for a few days, now I am very relaxed. But Robin has been busy reading various books and searching for information, she is really busy. You just say so, but you never like to listen, so you still have to teach me a lesson. Ivan, you are here. X3 The key is that the skirts of the two people at this time are not that long, so. The black-haired girl's face, which was originally shocked, began to flush slightly unnaturally, and she lowered her head, looking a little embarrassed to say anything. The only reason for covering it now is probably because. It doesn't matter, she knows it anyway, otherwise, just come together. 34 Nika fruit appears, please subscribe. Advertisement, it's okay, it's my business. I'm not in a hurry, just take your time, but I'm more interested in what you are doing, continue. X3 please, don't go into such detail about this kind of thing. Who has the nerve to continue? Looking at the beautiful silver-haired woman in front of them, Ivan and the other three couldn't help but complain secretly in their hearts. Of course, no matter how much you want to complain in your heart, you won't be able to say it out loud. After all, for this person, they still have more or less respect and fear in their hearts. They treat the other person as an elder and it is hard to say anything. So, I told you that there is nothing like that. Godmother, if you have anything to say, just tell me. Ivan was not afraid, and his thoughts of respect were not as strong as before, but he still complained to her in a somewhat dumbfounded way. The silver-haired woman in front of him is naturally his godmother I am. The former king of the first generation celestial dragons. Although, now, it is actually considered a retired state. After all, the second king has already fallen to him, and if anything really happens, he will basically handle it himself. Don't look at him, he seems to be hanging around all day long and picking up girls all day long. Actually it's pretty much the same, and that's true most of the time. But there are still serious moments. For example, some revolutionary armies, and the like would also engage in rebellion, which made him very helpless. The original celestial dragons did this, and that was all they did, and they still do things from time to time. Of course, it is normal. If it is not at all, it would make people feel very strange. There are so many places in the world, there will always be injustices in some places, and naturally there will be people who resist. The leader is also King Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon. But there is still a difference. They now seem to care more about people's lives than overthrowing the world and conquering it. If a country is at war and the civilians are in trouble, they will go quickly to recruit troops and so on. But it is relatively rare to do the management of overthrow and conquest. Maybe it's because the reforms he made over the years have been quite effective. They didn't promote the evil of world conquest, but wanted to reduce wars as much as possible. Of course, the Revolutionary Army is now their enemy, and this remains unchanged. After all, some radicals also regard them as worms in the world. They feel that the world does not need world conquest, let alone the words of his aloof Tianlong king. It will be more peaceful. Well, there are also such people in the Revolutionary Army. They're arrogant and confident. Ivan also admires such confident people, so if he encounters this type of man, he will basically kill him directly. As long as there is a slight threat, they will not show mercy when they arrive. After all, he came to power only 10 years ago. As for the Revolutionary Army, it has actually existed for a long time. Some people's ideas cannot be changed. It is impossible to think that the world has changed and the world is still the same. Ivan didn't think about changing their minds, he just wanted to do what he should do and what he wanted to do. Oh, I'm actually not very busy, I just had something unexpected happen recently. Advertisement. What's going on, Godmother? When he heard this, Ivan became slightly more serious. Although the Godmother is no longer the king, her prophecy ability is still extremely powerful. In itself, her power is a very special power that can be transformed into various forms. If she wants, she can also get very powerful combat power, even stronger than those so-called 4 emperors. However, most of the power has been transformed into the power of prophecy, and it maintains immortality, so it seems to be very weak now. But if there is a real fight, even Ivan himself may not necessarily be her opponent. After all, he doesn't know what the opponent's cards are. Of course, this idea is redundant. If his Godmother really took action against him, she wouldn't have given him everything and cared for him so meticulously over the years. And he doesn't have this ability to predict, so he will still tell him to handle some things personally. Now I no longer even talk to the 5 elders about certain things, I only talk to him and she and Robin next to me. It can only be said that the 5 elders are now mainly pure tool people. The Nika fruit reappeared and was snatched away by Redhair, and is now on East Blue's side. But when he heard this, Ivan couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then there was a somewhat complicated look in his eyes. Nika fruit, isn't it rubber fruit? Now it has been taken to East Blue, which may soon be given to a certain King Luffy. If that's the case, the situations in the original work may indeed occur. This fruit is important, not necessarily dangerous, but still, try to ensure its safety. If possible, bring the Nika fruit back. Im's voice was still a bit intermittent, giving people the feeling of breathing heavily. But Ivan has become accustomed to it over the years, so he naturally knows what she means. Well, I understand, I'll go in person. No need, just let the men go. It's not good for you to go. But when Ivan said this, Im shook his head, a little surprised and solemnly refused. Nika fruit is dangerous to you. For the celestial dragons, that fruit is very dangerous, and if they encounter the Devil Clan, it will be even more dangerous, Wang Dezhou. I know, but don't worry, I won't actively look for danger. After all, I still have so many lovely wives and daughters, I promise that I will be safe. But Ivan smiled, shook his head, and answered easily. Of course he knew about this kind of thing. But he himself was very sure that it would not be dangerous. His current strength alone is already at the absolute pinnacle of this world. To be honest, even if the so-called Joey Boy at his peak comes in front of him, he will kill him in various ways. What's more, he also has plenty of inventory, so there is no need to worry at all. Of course, there was still a reason why he really wanted to go there in person. He wanted to see what the future of this world would be like. Also, what about the so-called protagonist? Okay, stay safe. Don't worry, 35 The Godmother is pretty cute, please subscribe. Advertisement, Lord Ivan, is there really no problem? I have also learned about the situation of the Nika fruit, and it should not be good for you, especially your ability. After hearing what Ivan said, Im did not continue, but agreed. But Robin on the side asked instead, and she on the side was equally worried. After so many years, they got married and had children. Although Robin said he didn't have one yet, the meaning was already very clear. They have great confidence in Ivan and absolutely believe in him. But the problem is that the so-called Nika fruit has the power of rubber. Ivan's main ability is thunder and lightning, it happened to be completely restrained. Such repression is really too dangerous. Haha, so you were worried about this. Don't worry, you don't need to worry about it for a long time. If you are even afraid of this, then I have not made much progress in all these years. But after hearing their worried remarks, Ivan smiled instead, then stretched out his right hand and condensed a thunder sword. The current on it passes from time to time, and powerful energy is wrapped around it. 647. Even if you don't come into contact with it, you can already feel a strong sense of oppression just by looking at it. Naturally, they have seen a lot of this kind of thunder sword, and Ivan has been using it from before to now. Is this that the penetration power has been enhanced to ultimate? Indeed, it is very effective on rubber. But Im on the side noticed something special, and the expression on his face showed a slight smile and satisfaction. Indeed, she was a little worried about Ivan's situation before. After all, Thunder fruit can be said to be completely restrained by the rubber properties of Nika fruit in normal times. 99% of the power may be suppressed by rubber. But if Ivan added the penetrating property, it would be completely different. Rubber is also very afraid of penetration. Yes, all my abilities have been strengthened by ultimate in this regard, so if I really face the Nika fruit, even if the red-haired one is really able to awaken, I have absolute confidence to defeat him. Sia took it. Ivan also smiled and answered everyone, and several people nodded and then relaxed. In fact, the emergence of Nika fruit is not absolutely dangerous. It is better to say that the possibility of danger is extremely slim. But because of the possibility that existed before, they had to be more cautious. Fortunately, now, with this feature, even if we encounter it, there will be no danger. No matter what, stay safe. I know, Godmother, please pay attention to yourself. Don't stay up so late at night and read comics. This is not good for your health. Nu. After hearing this, I am also moved his face away a little and then said silently. The face is also slightly red. She was a little embarrassed to be said so by her son. But it's really nothing. Advertisement, I have been busy for so many years and now I have retired. Can't you take a good rest? She can't die anyway, it's very boring, and now she even. I am Sama has recently started drawing comics by himself. Ahem. Robin, work. Hearing that the black-haired girl on the side had the audacity to tease her, I am also coughed once, and then said something to her calmly. I understand, Master I am. Robin also smiled and continued to bury his head, and began to write with a pen, not knowing what he was writing. These seemed to be ancient texts that only the three of them could read. They were people from 800 years ago, so of course they could understand them, and even Ivan couldn't understand them. However, their conversation was not skipped. Ivan also listened clearly and showed a look of surprise. Godmother, have you started painting yourself? Let me see. No, go ahead and get to work. There's no rush at this moment, right? Go quickly, DB. This was the first time in so many years that he heard his godmother shout to him in an excited voice. It seems that I am really excited this time, T. The way Godmother blushes is quite cute. Okay, then when I leave, Robin, you guys can stay busy here for a while, and when your patience is over, you can relax. Ivan, who was thinking this way, also smiled and said something to the two people beside him, then kissed them on the cheeks respectively, and then prepared to turn around and leave. But before leaving, he also glanced at I am next to him. After looking at her somewhat complicated expression, Ivan also walked over with a smile, then put his arms around her waist and hugged her, in arms. Godmother, I'm leaving too, have a good rest. After you finish this time, you can finally have a complete rest. Then I will take you to visit more places. Ivan hugged her and spoke very relaxedly, and the strength of holding her was a bit strong, which made Yimu seem a little unable to break away. Of course, she didn't want to break free, but nodded silently, and then gently hooked her hands behind Ivan's neck. Ahem, I understand. Let's talk about it later. Of course, now is not the time to think about such things. Soon I am said this, and kept staring at Robin and she behind, making them look a little creepy and quickly moved their eyes. There is no way, they are also very clear about Lord Im's attitude towards Lord Ivan. In fact, there is really a feeling of dependence. Rather than saying it is mother to son, it is more like daughter to father. After all, Lord Im is actually a simple person and a simple woman. As one of the few people in the world who also understands ancient writing, they have gotten to know Master Im quite a bit over the years. She is really a very simple person. Let's talk about the future slowly. 36 heading to East Blue. Advertisement, East Blue. XN. When they heard this word, almost all the women present couldn't help showing some surprise, and then looked at Ivan who had just returned in surprise. Yes, I may have to go to East Blue for a while recently. Sorry, Ren, if it's really urgent, I will speed up and come back in an instant. Ivan, who was being stared at, said this with a smile, and held the hands of Shinobu with a big belly in front of him, speaking a little helplessly. To be honest, he could ignore other things, but only in this matter, he felt a little helpless and sorry for her. During the period before and after the birth of his previous daughters, he had always been by their side, but this time, he might not be there anymore. It's a very serious thing, right? It doesn't matter, it's better for my lord to do important things. Naturally, Ren was not angry, but smiled and nodded, asking whether the women around him said anything. They all know that Ivan is the Dragon King. Although you may seem casual and laid back at ordinary times, if something comes up at a critical moment, you will still become very busy. But sir, do you want to go in person? But at this time, Kanae on the side couldn't help but hold her chin and cheek, feeling a little troubled. And after hearing this, other people also showed a little sadness on their faces. If Lord Ivan needs to take action personally, to put it seriously, it is a matter of critical survival for the entire world. It seems that we are really in trouble this time. But the question is, could things be dangerous? If there is really a danger, it's better to send someone else there. It's always more troublesome to take action personally on such a critical matter. Well, this time is quite special. I feel like it's better to go there in person. But don't worry, it's not dangerous. I just have something I want to see for myself. Ivan smiled and nodded, which made them all relax a little. Ivan will not lie to others in this regard, and there is no need to lie to them. In fact, it is indeed quite safe. Ivan knew very well that the red-haired man was not the kind of person who wanted to disrupt the order of the world, and he would not do that kind of thing. But to be on the safe side, I'd better go take a look. That's it, then let's make some preparations. Well, that's it, Ivan nodded at first, thinking that he had listened to what he said. But then he also reacted and couldn't help being a little dumbfounded. But Shinobu didn't care at all, he was still smiling. What's wrong? I want to follow. Is there any problem? Oh, this is not good, right? Your physical condition. I am a doctor myself, and my physical condition is very good. I am well prepared and there will be no problems. Yes, we are the same, we will definitely take the highest level of precaution. Yes, I already have experience in this area and will take care of it. Yes, I will help too. Do you all want to go, one by one? Hearing that the women in front of him all seemed eager to try, Ivan couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He just wanted to go out to sea, but everyone wanted to follow him? Aren't you planning to go back? Also, Violet, you're going in the opposite direction, right? Especially for one of his sisters-in-law. She is going back to her own country soon. Why does she seem to want to go with her? Advertisement, it doesn't matter. I don't have anything to do now anyway. I just have too much time to do. You, my father-in-law will complain to me then. Anyway, brother-in-law, as long as you don't object. Your sister will also object. Why should I object? I haven't seen my sister for a long time. Of course I want to take a closer look. That's great, Oni-sama, are you going too? Looking at the two princess sisters hugging each other in front of him, Ivan couldn't help but glance at them angrily. This isn't a trip or something, what are 10 of us doing so scramblingly? But seeing how excited they all were, Ivan seemed a bit unable to refuse. With this look, everyone's eyes were so wide open, as if they were going to get in trouble with him if he didn't take them there. Forget it, just take it with you, there's no big problem anyway. But speaking of it, Vivi, do you want to come too? Looking at the blue-haired girl with sparkling eyes, Ivan was a little speechless again. Forget about your own family. Why are you, a foreign little princess, here to join in the fun? I'm also familiar with the way back there, I can introduce it to you. Vivi looked very proud, confident, and cute, which made Ivan dumbfounded. Then have you been to East Blue? No, but Uncle Ivan will take me there, right? It turns out that I wanted to play, no wonder, it seems that in the end, everyone wants to go. The only ones who may not go are those who are not present. Especially Shirley, mother and daughter, they hate traveling far the most. Those who dislike this and that all day long will probably be clamoring to come back after 2 or 3 days at sea. It seems that I can only take them all there. Oh, you all go, but I can't go. What does this mean? Sci-fi, you. Oh, I almost forgot, you are the acting queen. But at this time, Ivan also noticed a slightly depressed figure in the corner. She was curling her lips in displeasure. She didn't look like a middle-aged woman who was almost 40 at all. Of course, from the outside, it looks like he is around 24 or 25 at most, but on the inside, he is actually smaller. She is also very straightforward when it comes to relationships. Yes, master, I have been out for a while, and I can't leave for too long. I can only go back. Alas, can't you let Hancock go back and replace me? What a joke. I don't want it, tch, it's so boring. The two started to quarrel again because of a word, which made Ivan dumbfounded and could only persuade him. Okay, when I get back from East Blue, I'll go to 9 Snakes to have a look. Really? Lord Ivan, you must keep your word. Sure, don't worry. Fortunately, I haven't seen them for a while. Although they went out and hid there by themselves and couldn't come over on their own initiative, it should still be possible if they took the initiative to go there. 37.3. Women, compete for favor, please subscribe. Advertisement Grand Line, on the calm sea, a giant ship is moving forward slowly and quickly. Not far from it, there were 5 or 6 smaller ships guarding the surroundings. Of course, it is said to be smaller, but that is just for comparison. If we really wanted to compare them, the surrounding ships might all be on the same level as marine warships. Moreover, these frigates are also equipped with various external cannons. They obviously have absolute firepower, which makes people feel a great sense of oppression. To be honest, this appearance is really exaggerated. Even if the celestial dragons are traveling, they will not be so exaggerated. Of course, if you know who the person above is, you will understand. The ship that Dragon King Ivan Ross rides on cannot be exaggerated. Although, someone himself feels that 973 is actually completely unnecessary. Just get a boat and sail out. Why do you have to make it so exaggerated? And he obviously just wanted to solve it quickly and go back. Even though he could just get a boat, the result was such a mess. If you don't know, you might think this is some kind of buster call or something. And the reason why it is like this is because TCH, Armas is driving so slowly, like a phone bug. Can't you drive faster and not waste my time, Armas? A woman dressed in a luxurious and special outfit, as strict as a spacesuit, looked at the sea in front of her coldly, and then complained dissatisfiedly. I thought I would arrive soon, but I didn't expect that after so many days, the world in front of me was still the same, basically unchanged. Why is this damn ocean so big? Didn't you come here on your own? And if you drive too fast, you'll get sick and faint again. It's best this way. However, in response to her complaint, Ivan on the side complained angrily, with some helplessness in his tone. If it weren't for her, we might have already arrived by now. How can we say that we are still so far away? Now, they've passed the red line and come to the East Blue. I originally thought that when I came to this sea area, there might be some special plot or something. After all, there are many interesting things in East Blue in the original work, which was also the attraction of One Piece in the beginning. But after all, this is not the original work, and even the time point is wrong. He is not Wong Luffy, and naturally he will not have his experiences. Now, he has passed through many places. The City of Seven Waters, the Drum Kingdom, Alabasta, Upside Down Mountain, and even Logue Town. However, he did not enter any of these places. Instead, he passed by them and continued on. After all, we are not out for fun now, we still need to find the target as soon as possible. Of course, it's not about catching blind people blindly. If that's the case, I don't know how big the entire East Blue is, so how can I find it? But in fact, the red hair and the others did not cover up their pirate ship. The pirate logo picture of the Four Emperors ship is really too obvious. There are only some bandit kings here in East Blue who have a bounty of 8 million, and their identities are unknown. HMPH, that's too boring, Armas, but we're almost at the so-called Kingdom of Goa. It's such a remote little place. It's really boring, Armas. Advertisement at this time, the beautiful young woman with a veil on her face continued to complain with some dissatisfaction. The strange oral habit did not sound weird in her mouth, but had an inexplicable taste. Of course, this was what Ivan heard. If he had known her before, he might just feel unhappy. This woman is naturally Shirley. Originally, Ivan thought that they would not go, at least Shirley herself hated this kind of thing. But after all, he had to tell his wife that he was going on a long trip. What she didn't expect was that after she heard that they were all going, she insisted on coming. Okay, it's not far ahead, it's easy to find the red-haired pirate ship. Ivan also continued to comfort her, then hugged her waist and said with a smile. She had been pampered since she was a child, so she suddenly came so far and was still rushing. She didn't appreciate the surrounding scenery at all, so she just kept rushing here. Of course she was very unhappy. Fortunately, we are already very close to the Kingdom of Goa. We will arrive there in about an hour or so, and then let them rest here for a while. The rest is up to him to find. Anyway, even if he really couldn't find them, he could use the system to directly locate the red-haired ones. After all, he has seen red hair before, and he can keep tracking him if he wants. But he was not in a hurry, because he knew that the other party was probably close here. That's good, I don't want to stay on this ship anymore, Armas. I told you before, I'm not here for fun this time. HMPH, leave me behind and go out with them to feel comfortable, I don't want Armas. So, it's not what you think at all. Ivan wanted to complain directly, but after thinking about it, he decided to keep his mouth shut. Because he had already followed Shirley's gaze and looked at the women gathered together not far away. Some are just one or two people, and some are a group of people gathered together. Especially the cute little guys were all gathered together at this time. So, Hiyori, my mother is my father's main palace, and we are all celestial dragons. It should be obvious that the oldest one is Armas, right? Ah, but you still have to call me sister, right, if you really want to say it. Scarlet's mother was actually the first to marry my father, if you think about it. Rebecca Chan is the oldest. Does it have something to do with me? How can you calculate it like this? 3.0 Rebecca, don't you think so too about Armas? Well, I don't think so. Shilulia-sama and Hiyori-sama, don't fight over such meaningless things. Pointless? It's meaningless, so it means that we were fighting like clowns just now. No, I don't think so, and if you really say that, then my mother does have the best relationship with my father. No, X2 alas, the children's version of the palace fighting drama is being played here. Looking at the three young and cute girls not far away, and the two girls on the side who were slightly separated, but still quietly paying attention to them, and were sweating and not daring to talk. Ivan also felt a little headache. Alas, these 3 girls are really making a lot of noise. 38 equal love advertisement. So, my father loves my mother who is also the concubine of celestial dragons. Is there any problem? And I was the first to get pregnant? Ah, my mother, who was the first to be born, is my father's favorite person, isn't it? My mother was the first to marry my father, and he loves her the most. The 3 sisters began to carry out the struggle to a fierce stage at this time, giving Ivan a headache. 2 are 6 years old, 1 is 7 years old, the difference is very close. But they are biological sisters, and they have had a good relationship since childhood. Of course, they must be from the same father and mother, otherwise it would be strange. Except for Rebecca, the remaining 2 girls here are also Ivan's daughters. One is named Shalulia and the other is named Hiyori. Well, you can tell whose daughter it is just by looking at the name. He currently has 3 daughters, and with the one that is about to be born in Jonan's belly, there will be 4. For someone like Ivan who has now transformed into a daughter-in-law, he is naturally very happy. But they usually have a good relationship, but today they suddenly started to quarrel for some inexplicable reason, which made him feel a little headache, and he didn't know what caused the quarrel. 89. So, Vivi, you believe what I'm saying, right? I don't know about this either. Didn't you just ask who among us is the biggest? I'm asking about your age. Okay, I know why. Looking at the embarrassed blue-haired girl who had been questioned, Ivan probably understood the situation. The fight probably started because Vivi asked who was her sister. In fact, the first one to give birth to a child was she. But in fact, it was Shirley who became pregnant first. It's just that the time of pregnancy between the 2 was actually not much different, but when they finally gave birth, they were born a few days earlier. Therefore, mother and daughter Shirley both complained about this. She felt that she was originally supposed to be the main Pallas and eldest daughter. Advertisement. The result has changed now, and instead a maid has taken the lead. Of course, in fact, there is no maid who is not a maid, they are all his wives, so what does it matter? Even if she is a maid, as long as she is recognized by him, her status will be higher than that of ordinary celestial dragons. Of course, Shirley is also an exception. But what makes Ivan a little headache is that Ming and Rihei usually don't care about this, but this time they also started to argue, and even Rebecca was struggling with her face, seemingly unwilling to give in. I guess it's because I'm in front of outsiders, so I don't want to admit it. They all have a good reputation, not to mention it is related to their mother's status. Okay, 3 little guys, don't make things difficult for others. Why should you care about such a small thing? So Ivan walked over with a smile, then patted the heads of the 3 little guys, and also gently placed them on Vivi's head, soothing her nervous heart. They are both my wife and daughter. Of course I love them all equally. Only you little idiots can ask such idiotic questions. He has never had any doubts about this matter, and has always answered very firmly. If it was just a good impression, he had a good impression on many girls, and it would not be surprising at all even if they got married. But Ivan still has a very clear distinction between whether he is his woman or not. If so, then there will definitely be no distinction between big and small, as well as the amount of love, they will all be equal. His own energy is also limited, so he still has to wait until the last step is confirmed before thinking about some things. Of course, he had already completely fallen in love with the girls who followed him first. It's just that the few people summoned before 920 always regarded themselves as guards, and so on, and they never thought about having children. After all, if you really want to get pregnant, you won't be able to protect yourself properly. So all this time, they have never wanted to get pregnant. Even now, it's almost the same, because there are already many children, and they didn't say they must conceive by themselves. But what they didn't expect was that Shinobu would actually be pregnant, which surprised her at first. Of course, I was very happy afterwards. Being able to conceive the child of the man you love is naturally the ultimate happiness. So, now, she still sits quietly on the bow, surrounded by a group of people, and gently touches her belly, all the while maintaining a faint but happy smile. Really, it's a nice weather. 39 arrive at Goa Kingdom and search for red hair. Advertisement, the Heavenly Dragon King has arrived. Well, I'm sorry to trouble you, King Goa. He looked at the group of people who had already stood in front of the port, and the smiling old man who took the initiative to speak to him, and then dressed in luxurious clothes and wearing a crown on his head. Ivan also nodded silently, and then responded calmly. In front of him is the King of Goa Kingdom, and around him are his queens, princesses, princes, etc., as well as a group of noble ministers. But at this time, their faces were full of respect and dismay. Especially those girls who are dressed up in extremely fancy ways and want to show off their charm as much as possible. At this time, many of them are ogling Ivan, and some are shyly lowering their heads, but they still look at me from time to time. Raise your head and take a look at Ivan's side. Well, after all, facing the heavenly dragon king who stands at the top of the world, it is only natural that they would have this attitude. In fact, they were already waiting here more than an hour ago. After all, they heard that the heavenly dragon king was coming to their kingdom in person, so naturally they could not control their feelings. Even the king himself is like this, although just a few days ago, he was at a meeting in Marijoy. He had already heard that this subordinate of the heavenly dragon king had come to spread the news that he was going to East Blue, possibly to their Goa Kingdom, so he wanted to say, hi, first. Well, the meaning is obvious, that is, let the king here be ready to entertain them. Even if you don't come, prepare it for me first. There are very few kingdoms in East Blue, and most of them have been unified. The rest are mostly towns and small islands, and those are not considered countries. And their kingdom of Goa is the strongest and largest kingdom in East Blue. But among the 4 seas, East Blue is the weakest, while Tianlong King has the most powerful power in the world. Although both sides are kings, there is no comparison at all. No, that's not what I meant. I just want to ask, Dragon King. Do you have anything to say? We should be able to help you solve it. But the reason why he did not eat it himself is probably because of a special reason. When the people present saw this scene, they were naturally shocked. I thought they could go with him, but he actually said that he would act alone, not even Hancock and the others. But there is another target, and that target also meets the requirements. Why, am I not worthy of you to entertain Amas? To be honest, Dragon King's power is too great. Even if the other party kills him directly now, World Conquest will not have any objection, and I am afraid it will directly appoint a new king. Advertisement, ha ha ha. It's rare that the Heavenly Dragon King is willing to come to my place. The banquet has been prepared. Come and have something to eat first. This is definitely not impossible, and they don't dare to risk their body organs and limbs. But at this time, Ivan suddenly said this, which made King Goya and the others present dumbfounded. Hearing Shirley Leah say this, the king's face became a little ugly, but he also waved his hand hurriedly. So, even if I tried not to use the pronoun, you, just now, I wanted to be a little tougher in my own territory, but now I don't have that confidence anymore. However, Shirley and others did not care, but continued to urge the king, and the king also hurriedly took all of them to the banquet. In fact, Ivan really has no time to deal with them now, and there are still very important things. Even the celestial dragons don't dare to provoke the maids of the Ivan family, and maids, like Hancock, need to be respectful. Otherwise, who knows if the other party will dislike you one day and find an opportunity. Cut off your legs. Alas, there is no way, they themselves are also helpless. These people here, even if they are maids, he actually can't afford to offend. Red Hair must have known the special nature of the Nika fruit a long time ago. Is this the strength of the Dragon King? Fortunately, the king here also knows that this Tianlong King is not that troublesome person. Maybe he just wants to come to East Blue to see it. Even if he was a fool, he could see that the other party was not looking for him at all, but had something important to do. Otherwise, he would not have come all the way to such a small place like his. However, his obvious appearance of being much more sensible made the citizens around him swallow their saliva. You know, they are naturally very clear about what the king on their side is like. The surrounding towns are so poor, which is absolutely inseparable from his hard work and exploitation. In this country, only those who live in prosperous areas such as Gao Town can become upper-class people. The rest are naturally lower-class people, not to mention those in some slums. No need, I know where it is, you can continue on your own, and don't interfere with me. It seems that he really has something to solve here, so we can only not disturb him. That's impossible. He came all the way to this small mountain corner and brought the Nika fruit with him. Is it to give Luffy eats tiles? Well, you go ahead. I have something to do next, so you can eat by yourself first. Shirley, you can take charge of the overall situation while I'm away. But Ivan and his people were not surprised, but nodded silently, looking very honest. To put it bluntly, his maids are his face. If he dares to teach them a lesson, it is almost like a slap in his face, which is naturally unbearable for him. He is also a member of the D family, and definitely has the most special fate. The son of the Pirate King, Portgas d'Ace. Although this sentence may not be quite understandable in this world, the meaning of 7th grade official in front of the Prime Minister's door is still the same. At this time, Ivan did not say any more nonsense to them, but turned his head and looked into the distance. Then the whole person suddenly turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared into the horizon. Maybe he was intercepted and eaten by Luffy before they met, and his fate was changed. The king also laughed at this time, and then spoke to Ivan and the women who got off the boat with him. 40 red-hair pirates of Windmill Village, advertisement. The Kingdom of Goa is known as the most beautiful country in East Blue. In the capital of this country, there is an extremely beautiful landscape. Whether it is the central street where civilians live, the high town where nobles live, or the royal palace, they are all very clean and tidy, just like a kingdom in a fairy tale. But in fact, everything is not as beautiful as in a fairy tale. In reality, it is a country that perfectly excludes unnecessary things, and can be called a successful example of isolation society. In other words, all other places are poor, and there are not many good places. In this case, outside the kingdom, it is naturally easy to be abandoned. Fortunately, in recent years, the powerful pirates have basically gone to the Grand Line, and there are basically no vicious pirates here. So, relatively speaking, most places in the poor East Blue area are relatively peaceful. Windmill Village is a typical example. This is a very peaceful fishing village. There are no resources and values, so it is naturally more peaceful. The people here, at most, grow fruits, fish, etc., just like most poor but peaceful places. 473. Everyone just wants to live a peaceful life. But during this period of time, this place welcomed a group of uninvited guests. Ha ha ha, boss, you look so embarrassing today. What a joke. I just lost a few games, not that bad at all. Don't be so stubborn, you look so embarrassing now. Damn. You guys. The red hair laughed, looked at the man next to him with ease, then raised his glass and clinked it with him. This man who had been sitting at the counter, next to red hair. Ha ha ha, XN. But at this moment, a calm voice suddenly appeared in the bar. Sure enough, it's here, red hair. Oh, it may be a little wrong to say, uninvited guests. Well, basically you can't find it. Sure enough, it's not as simple as I thought, but even you are here. I feel that even if he eats the fruit, it will be useless. What do you think? But boss, we have been looking for so many days, but still can't find it. Is it not here? But at this time, a fat man holding a large piece of meat in his hand, after taking a bite, also asked Shanks. Although the cadres around were still smiling easily, they also paid attention to the situation here. CEAG. Although it is said that their voyage is indeed very casual, with their strength, they can naturally go anywhere in the world. But now, they are in the weakest sea area of East Blue, and in such a remote place that is not marked on the map, it will make people feel very surprised. But they themselves naturally know what to do. There is no way, we still have to continue looking here. If we can find it, it would be the best. If we really can't find it, there is nothing we can do. The red-haired man himself seemed a little helpless, but there was still some emotion in his deep eyes. I thought that fate guided him here, and there should be a result. But now it seems that nothing like that happened. Mr. Shanks, what are you looking for? Advertisement. But for some reason, now all of them have gathered in a small fishing village like East Blue. There are also Ben Beckman, Lucky Lou, Yasop, Lime Jones, Bank Punch, Dejay. Okay, and there are also some villagers present, and the gentle proprietress at the bar counter, all with happy smiles on their faces at this time. Each of them is a famous 4 Emperors cadre, and their strength is extremely strong. This is the pirate ship of Red Hair, one of the 4 Emperors. Okay, guys, let's not get drunk today. If someone has a little knowledge of the outside world and sees the skull flag on the ship not far away, I am afraid they will be scared to the point of weakness in their legs. However, the red-haired man's refusal to answer naturally made her give up the idea of pursuing, and she answered with a smile. Ivan rose. Ha ha ha, nothing, lady boss, we are talking about our own things, a few more drinks. The red-haired young man who was just mocked by a group of subordinates is one of the 4 strongest pirates at present. Ha ha ha, you came in person, I didn't expect it to be so soon, I thought I could find an opportunity. Although he is still very young, he has been an intern on the ship of the Pirate King and has become an incredible super strong man, making the world conqueror tremble. And he should be galloping in the new world, in the second half of the Grand Line. And the moment they heard this voice, the cadres around them all subconsciously stared at the counter. Huh? XN, and they have even been here for a long time? As a poster girl, you just need to work hard here and don't need to think too much about irrelevant things. Obviously, they are all very happy when communicating with this group of people. Nonsense, if you really find it, I will have a headache. But the identity of this group of people is not simple. He had heard that these pirates were very powerful, but they seemed to be looking for something, but they didn't tell outsiders. At this time, the young lady boss asked curiously. But now he looks like an ordinary person, and there seems to be no difference from the villagers next to him. After all, they are still laughing happily here. Red-haired Shanks.